but the search has now been called off. The discovery of a body was revealed by Police Scotland's Assistant Chief Constable Malcolm Graham outside the force headquarters in Edinburgh.
I can confirm that we've recovered the body of a young boy in Fife shortly before midnight. We have informed the family and the investigation continues. A person has been detained in connection with the death.
A 21-year-old man from Birmingham has been arrested at Gatwick Airport on suspicion of attending a terrorist training camp in Syria. Separately, 2 men from Handsworth are due to appear in court in London this morning, charged with travelling to Syria for terrorism. Yousaf Sarwar and Mohammed Ahmed, who are both 21, were arrested at Heathrow Airport on Monday. The Chief Constable of West Midlands Police has dismissed claims that some communities are dishing out their own punishments. It comes after Tom Windsor, the Chief Inspector of Constabulary, told the Times newspaper officers are rarely called to some neighbourhoods in cities in the Midlands because communities deal with any trouble on their own. But West Midlands Police Chief Chris Sims disputed the comments, saying areas dominated by minorities in Birmingham often had high volumes of calls to the force. An international appeal has been launched to find a stem cell donor for a 27-year-old man from Birmingham who's seriously ill with a rare blood cancer.
Without a match, there is no hope. That's all we're clinging on to really at the moment, is just trying to stay positive. Whilst it's still possible that they can find a match and possibly save his life, that's what we're focusing on. Get as many people as registered, not just for Ed, but for all the other people who can benefit from it as well.
That's Ben Craddock, Ed Fox's best friend, and Ed was diagnosed with a type of lymphoma just weeks after moving to Belgium. His chances of survival are slim without a donor. Deirdre Taylor is from Delete Blood Cancer UK, which runs a stem cell donor database.
50% of people in the UK never find their match, sadly. But the more people that go on to register, you would be registering to go on standby to be matched with someone. You might not be contacted ever. Maybe you're Ed's match. You could be that person that could save his life.
Property website Zoopla has reportedly issued an ultimatum to West Bromwich Albion to sack Nicholas Anelka or lose their £3 million sponsorship money. Anelka is currently under investigation by the FA. Marketing Weekly says Zoopla are unhappy about the controversial Quenelle gesture last month at West Ham. The club says it won't be making a comment until the FA's investigation has finished. And Andy Murray's through to the fourth round of the Australian Open after a straight sets win over Feliciano Lopez. Murray won the first set on a tie-break before easing through the next two, 6-4, 6-2 in 2 hours 15 minutes in Melbourne. The British number one will now play French qualifier Stéphane Robert. A look at the weather, cloudy and breezy, some light rain around all day, highs of 9 degrees Celsius, 48 degrees Fahrenheit. Tonight that rain will continue, frosty and cold as well, lows of -1 degrees Celsius, 30 degrees Fahrenheit. BBC WM 95.6 News, there's more online at bbc.co.uk/WM.
The Voice. The Voice. The Voice. The Voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
They have kids and they want somebody else to keep them.
Social services shouldn't exist.
I know quite a few people that have had pay cuts in their wages just to hang on to their job.
Iain Lee, Saturdays
9 till 12.
BBC WM 95.6.
Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC WM 95.6. For those who were listening last week, let's keep our fingers crossed that I can last more than 45 minutes this morning, shall we please? I'll explain that a bit later on, maybe. Lots coming up in the show this morning. Keen to hear your stories on so many of these. Later on, we'll be talking about being a vegetarian. I am one, have been one for 25 years. I'm thinking of jacking it all in. If you've swung the other way, so to speak, and given up vegetarianism, give me a call, let me know why, let me know how it went. Can gay people be cured? Controversial therapy that hopes and helps to turn gay people straight. Well, do you think that can actually work? That's coming up later. But before that, we'll be talking about the Chief Inspector of Police, who's told the Times newspaper that some minority communities are operating their own justice system. Well, is that the case? And I guess the bigger question is, do you trust the police?
Have your say.
Across the West Midlands, call
03453 00
9956.
BBC WM 95.6.
Yes, for those who were listening last week, 45 minutes into the show, my voice changed into the rather dulcet tones of Adrian Goldberg. I had a terrible migraine. I get migraines from time to time. And those of you who are thinking, oh, hey, he just had a bad headache. Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy. I was praying to die. It was awful. For those of you who get migraines, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'll save you most of the details, but I was riding the microphone fader quite well. You didn't hear me throwing up. That's all I'm going to say. So big thank you to Adrian for stepping in at the last minute. And I'm sure he did an absolutely fantastic job. He's a cracking broadcaster. So thank you to that. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, I can make the next 2 hours and 53 minutes. You'd think it wouldn't be too much to ask, wouldn't you? But there you go. Right. Lots to talk about. If you want to get in touch, you can email me, iain.lee@bbc.co.uk. It's iain.lee@bbc.co.uk. You can text 81333. Start your text WM. But the best way for this show to work is if you give me a call. Because I can read out your text and I can read out your emails and you can text in again. But it's nice to have a discussion. And let's be honest, on a Saturday morning, to have a little bit of an argument, isn't it? What a great way to start the weekend. What a great way to start the weekend, having a little bit of a Barney. First thing I want to talk about is do you trust the police? Now, it's a tough question for me to answer. I'm a white, middle-aged, middle-class person. Most of my dealings with the police, most of them, they've treated me pretty well. There have been a couple of exceptions. There was one instance when I told a detective to get lost in no uncertain terms. I might tell you that story a little bit later on. And yeah, I've been stopped a couple of times by a cocky, arrogant police officer. You know, when they're kind of playing that power game and you think, well, why didn't you just talk to me like a human being? But for the most part, 90% of my dealings with the police, they have treated me wonderfully. When my mum got... my mum, who's very ill with MS, she had carers going into her home, and some of the carers were stealing from her. Terrible, terrible. Stole $3,000 and a load of her jewellery, right? The police were fantastic. They went above and beyond what they needed to do, even turning up at the court... the 2 days it went to court, when it was the fella's day off. And I said, why are you here? He said, well, I just want to see what happens. It was his day off. He didn't need to be there. He had no reason to be there. He just wanted to make sure that everything happened correctly, that the people got what they deserved. And boy, oh boy, did they. A Christmas in prison. Well done, justice system. I'll have one of those, please. So for me, the police have always treated me well. I pretty much trust the police. And I've kind of got on with them. If something happened, I wouldn't have any problems going to the police. But what's your story? What have your encounters with the police been like? Have they been good? Have you always gone to them? Have you had an experience that makes you think, do you know what? It's probably not worth going to the police anymore. It's probably not worth me having anything to deal with them, because what happened last time wasn't good enough. I'll tell you why we're talking about this. Big story. The Chief Inspector of Police, no less, has told the Times newspaper that some minority communities are operating their own justice system without reporting even serious crimes to the police. Tom Windsor says that officers were rarely called to some neighbourhoods, citing parts of the Midlands as some of the worst affected. Well, Chief Constable of West Midlands Police, Chris Sims, has dismissed the claims, saying areas dominated by minority communities often had high volumes of calls to the force. So, question, do you trust the police? 03453 00 9956. We can speak now to, this earlier on, just before the show, I spoke to the Police and Crime Commissioner for the West Midlands, Bob Jones.
Slightly worrying. He seems to be making increasingly bizarre and strange comments, and he clearly doesn't know a lot about policing and seems to know even less about inner cities.
Do you completely deny his statement that minority communities are operating their own justice system?
Well, I'd like to see the evidence from it. I haven't seen anything. Clearly, the areas he's referring to are the areas where we have the highest level of reported crime and the highest levels of policing activity. So I'm not sure where the evidence is to actually support his strange allegations. Clearly, all families and other organisations are sometimes reluctant to inform the police about serious criminal issues, but frankly, it's probably more prevalent in things like the business community, and the evidence would point you more towards like organisations about such as the Catholic Church historically, rather than recently, and for this particular analysis of people who were born under foreign skies, whatever that means, is a very strange way of referring to this issue.
Doing phone-in shows like this, as I've done for a few years now, I do speak to people from different communities and different ethnic backgrounds, and it is fair to say that a significant number don't seem to trust the police. Would you go along with that?
Well, clearly we always have to work harder to ensure that we do get even better levels of reporting. But that's not just an issue in BME, where the BME community has significant presence. It's an issue across the board. The biggest problem we have with underreporting in deprived inner city areas is, of course, where they can't afford the insurance, it's not perceived to be worthwhile doing the reporting. But we have been making considerable progress about that, and particularly in terms of serious issues. As I say, there is more police activity in those areas than any other area in the community.
Why is there this distrust from some ethnic groups towards the police, do you think?
Well, clearly we need to show that we actually care. We need to communicate better. We need to ensure that we hopefully can increasingly make our police force look more like the communities that it serves. We are working on those particular agendas to improve things. But in terms of the very serious matters, we do have the biggest level of reporting. We do have the biggest level of police usage and activity in those areas. And to suggest, to hint that there's such a thing as a no-go area, there is no no-go areas in the West Midlands, and I think the other Midland cities, because he doesn't specify which particular area he's referring to, I'm sure would say exactly the same thing.
Do you think that Mr. Windsor's statements are divisive?
I do. I think they're ill thought out. I understand he hasn't had a conversation about that with any of the chief constables of the West Midlands. I haven't seen where he's had a study, where he's talked to local communities about this issue. I would hope that the Chief Inspector of Constabulary would only offer advice on the basis of proper evidence, proper study, and having talked to the people at the front end of delivering services in those communities.
You mentioned
that doesn't seem to be the case.
Bob, you mentioned trying to make the police force look more like the people it's representing. It is pretty much, apart from the odd black face, the odd Asian face, it is still pretty much a white organisation, isn't it? What can you practically do to change that?
Well, we've obviously struggled in recent years because we haven't recruited a single police officer since 2010. Obviously, we now have the subject to my budget proposals being approved, seeking to recruit approximately 500 new police officers in the next couple of years. And clearly, we want to make sure that we maximise the advertising in areas where there are significant BME communities, trying to make sure that we properly value skills such as languages to ensure that we do get the new skills that we actually require, which sometimes are more historic patterns of assessment have not necessarily helped communities. So there is a very active programme to try and make sure that we make significant progress. We do have approximately 1,000 BME staff in the West Midlands, but clearly that still is a significant underrepresentation compared to the community as a whole.
Well, that was me speaking to the PCC for the West Midlands, Bob Jones, earlier on. I want to know this morning, do you trust the police? 03453 009956. It's coming up to 9:16. Let's get the latest travel news now. Here's Liz Saul.
Thank you very much, Ian. As you make your way in and out of Birmingham, it's picked up a bit for the moment along Hagley Road, round Five Ways Island. That seems to be OK. Also looking better as you head along the A461 round Dudley and towards the Burnt Tree traffic lights. That seems to be flowing quite nicely at the moment. There was a little bit of traffic that's eased off for now around the Tiverdale Road turn and the A4123. No problems on the motorway routes, though on the M6 works continue both between junctions 5 and 8 in places, through the Birmingham turns and between 10A and 13 for the M54 to Stafford. If you can update us, call BBC WM 95.6 Travel 08453 002288.
Morning, Molly.
Good morning, Gary.
Welcome to the show, Paul.
Hello there.
How are you, Mickey?
Yeah, fantastic, thanks.
This year we want you to be part of our shows more than ever.
So we're changing our number, making it cheaper for many callers to give us a bell.
03453 009956.
Just as easy to remember, but it's cutting the cost of the call, especially from most mobile phones.
Good morning, Adrian.
Oh, that's a proper accent to greet me, that.
A new year, a new phone number. 03453 009956.
BBC WM 95.6.
Morning, this is Ian Lee, BBC WM 95.6 03453 009956. You heard there the PCC for West Midlands, Bob Jones, completely disputing what the Chief Inspector of Police has said, that some... He uses this strange phrase, doesn't he? He doesn't specify which ethnic groups he's talking about. He talks about people being born under different skies. What? What does that mean? But some of them, including people who live in the Midlands, are operating their own justice system. Now, we can spread this out a little bit. Certainly, if you were, quote, born under a different sky, then give me a call, 03453 009956. Is this true? Would you say this was true? Can you see anything in this? Is there a reason that you don't call the police? And also, let's spread this out a little bit. What is your experience of calling the police? Have they always responded? Have they given you what you need? I mean, there was an incredible story this week that the police and crime figures... was it just from the Metropolitan Police or was it countrywide? I can't quite remember. Someone will call me and let me know. That their figures are pretty much made up. Pretty much. That they bend them, they shape them, they make them look the way they want to. And so the official body that regulates figures says, do you know what, we're not accepting the police's crime figures anymore, we don't trust them. So what are your experiences with the police, good or bad? I don't want this to be a let's all knock the coppers phone in, because they're easy to do. We can do those, we could get 3 hours out of that. If you have a story where the police have let you down, I want to hear it. But also your good stories about the police, where they have gone above and beyond. Do you trust the police? Very simple question. 03453 009956. And most of us will have some sort of experience with the police, whether it's being helped out on a Friday night when we're a bit boozy, maybe it's something more serious, a car break-in, a burglary, something like that. What are your experiences with the police? Give me a call. Share them with me and the listeners this morning. 03453 009956. Mo's in Tamworth. Morning, Mo.
Good morning, Ian.
Mo, what would you like to say?
Well, I'd briefly like to say first that my family had a situation where we had to involve the police. 20 years ago, 1993, 20 years ago, and our utter disappointment concerning the police, how they let us down. They didn't really take us seriously enough.
Can I ask what the incident was?
It was two members of our family, young members at the time, were sexually harassed in a serious way by a non-blood member of the family.
OK, right, so a very serious incident.
But anyway, we didn't feel, both of them were under 18 at the time, and we didn't feel the police took it serious enough. But that was our disappointment. I've never forgotten that. But that
and has that put you off calling the police since then?
Well, I've never been in a situation like that since, and never want to be again. But yes, I've called them for other things. I've witnessed 2 or 3 crimes over the years, and I've informed them of them.
Okay.
And they have acted. You know, they have.
You had another point you wanted to make, Mo.
Yeah, probably quite an important one. It's to do with an article I read in the paper a couple of days ago in The Independent, and this is based on the Freedom of Information Act, and it's to do with 179 crimes committed by police, men and women. I think, does it say men and women? No, serving police officers.
Okay.
Which is 179 crimes in the past 3 years, and they're very serious. I mean, do you want me to go through them?
Well, give us a couple of them, yes, some examples.
OK, child pornography, running brothels, selling guns, lying about crime committed, animal cruelty, using excessive force on people.
And these, I missed this story, Mo. These are coppers that have done these?
Yes. But there's more than, you know, there's others.
OK, well, those ones are pretty bad. We kind of get an idea. But 179 crimes, I would imagine some of those have been committed, you know, some officers have committed more than one crime, so it's not necessarily 179 officers. That's quite a small percentage, isn't it, of the entire police force across the country?
How do you mean that?
Well, I don't have the figures in front of me, but there are thousands of police officers. This is, possibly 100 police officers have committed these crimes?
OK, but if you...
I'm not justifying it, I'm just saying it's a small percentage, and there will always be a small percentage of corrupt, naughty people in any line of work.
Yeah, but if you want to multiply things, I mean, if you look at these crimes, mentioning also they haven't reeled them all out, more often than not, before people get caught, I mean, these crimes have probably been ongoing. And, you know, for probably a long time. And, you know, we are talking here very serious crimes committed by policemen, the people, you know, we want to look up to, we want to respect.
What would you suggest we do, Mo? How do we stop that? Pay them more? Be more scrupulous in our examination of their behaviour?
How do we stop that? I would imagine that there are people far more knowledgeable than me that probably do know how that should happen. But, you know, when you look at this list of very serious crimes, it's not acceptable, is it? It's just not acceptable.
No, it's certainly unacceptable. You're correct. It was unacceptable for anyone to do these crimes, but certainly you would expect the police to be slightly... the better behaved. 03453 009956 is the phone number. I'm joined now by Councillor Wasim Zafar, who's the Chair of Social Cohesion and Community Safety Committee at Birmingham City Council. Morning, Wasim.
Good morning.
The Chief Inspector of Police, Tom Windsor, says that some minority communities, very non-specific there, are operating their own justice system without reporting even serious crimes to the police. What's your reaction to that?
I find his comments totally baffling, and I'll encourage him to substantiate what he's saying here. We're not living in a third world developing country where these practices may be common. We're living here in the United Kingdom in the middle of the Midlands, and he specifically said the Midlands too in his comments in the Times this morning. I don't know where he's got this from. It's something that I've never come across in the UK. Most crimes are reported. And I think all serious crime is reported and investigated by the police.
Why do you think he said this then?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I know there's an issue around trust and confidence with some elements of society and the police, and sometimes with the BME communities, the black and minority ethnic communities. That's really down to practice such as stop and search, which historically have been disproportionate against black and minority ethnic communities. And that sometimes prevents small... what I'd call petty crime being reported, but serious crime going unreported and being resolved in people's front rooms and living rooms is just complete nonsense. This doesn't happen.
Can you say, Wasim, that categorically doesn't happen? Because we do read stories in certain newspapers of community leaders, whatever that means, kind of settling disputes between families and things like that.
When there's a small issue, a small scuffle between young people, sometimes it's advisable for people to nip it in the bud. And I've seen that practice happen in all sections of society, and we're even promoting restorative justice at the moment. It's a government initiative where the offender and the victim meet each other and discuss the issue and come to a peaceful resolution without going through the criminal justice system. That is something government's promoting, and I think that's a positive way of dealing with things. And
what kind of incidents are we talking about there?
We're talking about small, antisocial behaviour. There was a youth centre in my patch in Lascelles which had a window broken by a young person. We sat the senior youth worker down with a police officer and the offender, and there was a conversation of why the actions took place, what happened, what was the reason for this individual to do it, and a civil conversation took place, and hopefully that young person won't offend again. And I think that's what this is about. When we can nip things like that in the bud without it becoming a serious issue in the community, I think that's advisable. But anything to do with violence, any serious issue is best dealt with by the police and is dealt with by the police. So I don't know where these community courts or have come to. I find the comments totally baffling. And it's even mentioned people born in other skies. The whole article which I've read this morning is baffling, and I'll strongly encourage Mr. Windsor to either substantiate his comments with some evidence or stop making these ridiculous statements.
Well, of course, we've tried to get Tom Windsor on the show this morning. He's not doing any interviews today, although the statement has been released that says his comments in the Times are accurate, except he said parts of cities, not cities. So that's the only... He says cities in the in the Midlands. He means parts of cities. But he's not coming on to defend himself. Do you think his statements damage racial relations, Wasim?
I'd like to think they don't, but they don't help. Right, let's be clear. There's a lot of work that's taking place to ensure that we have a cohesive community. There's people from all over the world that have come to us here in the West Midlands. Birmingham has people from 187 different communities. Fantastic that we've got such diversity. With that diversity, sometimes comes some challenges too. And we, as a local authority, working with the police and other partners, and in particular the community, are trying to, wherever possible, support a cohesive community and ensure that relations between sections of society are good. But this doesn't help, because all it does is play to the right-wing agenda, or the far-right agenda rather, where they're allowed to exploit comments such as this and pinpoint certain sections of the community. He's not mentioned a certain section of the community, but I can imagine where he's hinting from the types of crimes he's mentioned, because he's mentioned honour killings, FGM and others. So it doesn't help, no.
Why do you think there is... Or maybe you don't, let me rephrase that. Do you think there is a mistrust between ethnic groups in the Midlands towards the police? And if so, why?
By and large, there isn't, right? Let's be clear. But there are some people who are aggrieved by certain practices of the police historically, and I'm going to mention it again, stop and search. However, that's been an issue for 30, 40 years here in the West Midlands. And in the last couple of years, we've seen the police put their hands up and say, yeah, we've got an issue here, now we need to work together to address it. And through the Office of the Police and Crime Commissioner, Bob Jones, working closely with the Chief Constable, Chris Sims, they've pulled together a programme where they're going to train their officers further on cultural and other sensitive issues, to make sure that when they do stop somebody, irrespective of their ethnicity, irrespective of their gender, they are stopping it according to the legislation that they have to do that. So there is some mistrust around certain practices of the police, but by and large, the communities across the West Midlands, and it's not just ethnic communities, but all communities, trust their police.
Do you think the police are racist?
No.
Because there are a disproportionate number of black and ethnic minority people who are stopped compared to, the percentage of people from those communities. There's a higher percentage stopped, aren't there?
Oh, without doubt, and I've been very vocal about this in the past couple of years, and clearly this needs to be addressed. But I think there is a lack of training for officers, and sometimes you'd get the odd officer whose attitude is inappropriate. But I think some cultural sensitive training, some challenging of attitudes of police officers is better. Sometimes we set police officers up to fail by not providing them with the relevant support and the relevant training when we put them out there into some of our communities. I also think, and I've been very vocal about having a reflective police force, I think public sector institutions should look like the people that they serve. And I think if we had more ethnic minority police officers, not just at constable level, but progressing through the ranks, that will help in terms of their peers understanding some of the cultural elements of it.
Why are there so few, Wasim?
It's a good question. I was with the police yesterday, senior police officer, discussing this myself, and I'll be discussing again on Monday. I think there are some concerns that people from certain communities aren't coming forward to apply for these jobs, and I asked the question why. So it's about encouraging them to
Because
apply for the jobs.
if black and ethnic minorities don't want to apply for the police force, you can't make them, can you? So therefore you can't integrate them within the police and make it representative of society. So it's their fault, isn't it?
No, it's not necessarily their fault. I think what we need to do is think outside the box and take these recruitment initiatives to the community in a way that will reach the relevant people that we're trying to attract. And I think when we do start recruiting for the West Midlands Police in the near future, I'll be working very, very closely with them to ensure that people from all sections of society are applying for the jobs. We had an issue previously where we were not getting enough female officers applying because there's a gender inequality within the police force. There still is, but there's been a lot of progress made out of that. So I think it's about how we can tackle these inequalities around the makeup of the staff workforce together to have a more reflective police force, and hopefully that will help address any issues and alleviate any issues around mistrust between certain sections of society and the police.
Final question, Wasim. I'm asking all the listeners this morning. Do you trust the police?
Yes. There may be one or two bad apples in the police, as there are one or two bad apples in every form of life, but by and large, I'm very comfortable with the excellent work that the West Midlands Police are doing and the brave and courageous officers that we have, because when we do sometimes put them on the front line, they do have the most difficult circumstances to deal with.
Councillor Wasim Safar, Chair of Social Cohesion and Community Safety Committee at Birmingham City Council, thank you very much indeed. I often wish I had a long title that was difficult to say. It makes you sound important, doesn't it? Thank you for that, Wasim. He trusts the police. Thinks there should be more ethnic minorities in there. Well, why aren't ethnic minorities joining the police? If you are black or from an ethnic minority, whatever that may be, and it's a weird kind of cover-all phrase that doesn't actually mean anything, but if you are, what's your attitude towards the police? Would you ever consider joining the police? If your kids or your grandkids came home and said, hey, guess what, Nan? Joining the police. What would you think? Would you be proud? Would you be tutting? And speaking to all of you listening to this right now, do you trust the police? And I guess the only way we can decide whether we trust the police, the best way to decide whether we can trust the police, is through our own personal experience. So what are your stories? What's happened to you with the police that's made you think, yep, they're brilliant, they do a cracking job, or think, no, I wouldn't trust them as far as I can throw them. We had our house broken into and they were absolutely useless. 03453 009956 is the phone number. This is one of those things where we can look at statistics, we can look at numbers, but really the only way we can make any progress in this is by hearing your stories, is by having you tell me and the listener what happened to you to shape your opinion. So give me a call now, a couple of lines through, 03453 009956. I think we've got T in Hockley. Morning, T.
Hi, Ian.
T, do you trust the police?
About 60%.
Oh, it's not great. Why?
I'll just give you a very brief backdrop of where I'm from. I'm from Hockley, the poorer side of Hockley. And about 5 years ago, there used to be a lot of police in the area. I used to get stopped probably every 3 weeks just for going to the shop to buy milk or tea.
Can I ask, I wouldn't normally, but it's relevant to the conversation. Are you black?
Yes.
Are you white? You're black?
Yeah.
OK, lovely, thank you.
So essentially, there was a lot of police in the area, just bobbies on the beat. And actually, I didn't mind because I was confident they were looking after the area. However, I had two incidences where I had to actually report crimes that happened to my property and happened to me. On both incidences, when I went to the station, quite early in the morning, I was told by the officer behind the desk, sorry, there are no officers in the station at the moment to deal with the crime. So I had to wait for 2 hours, and then I called them again after realising there were no police officers there. And they said, oh, sorry, you've called again, so we're going to have to rebook this as another crime, and we'll have to cancel the previous one. So anyway, 5 hours later after the incident, they actually turned up, and they were absolutely clueless as to how to deal with the situation. Someone tried to break into my flat, by the way.
Right.
And what was most annoying is when they were looking on the CCTV and they couldn't see the actual crime fully being committed, they suggested that I'd made the whole thing up. So that annoyed me no end.
I bet it did.
So essentially, not only were they clueless in finding out, who the person who might have committed the crime, they tried to turn it around for me, wasting their time, which I didn't really appreciate.
Well, how did that make you feel? You've had a robbery, a break-in. You're doing your civic duty, reporting it to the police, and they turn around and point the finger at you. How does that make you feel?
I'm quite open-minded, and I'd say in that incident, I just had the bad apples, the incompetent ones. A few get through, don't they? And I just got them on that particular day. What was more annoying was a few months later, the police plastered up all these statistics saying, we're reducing crime. Crime has gone down by such and such a percent. It's the lowest in so many years. And I thought back to my incidents with them, where they said they had no statements to put down the incident, or they couldn't deal with it because they couldn't find a suspect. And I thought to myself, someone is manipulating the statistics and the system to make it appear like crime is going down.
Well, that's what the police have been accused of this week, rather spectacularly, of manipulating the figures so they look better.
Well, it's a red herring saying, we won't go into certain areas, because the reality is there's not enough coppers on the beat. And so they're basically saying, let them deal with the situation themselves. I don't think the communities really are saying, don't come into our communities. The police are basically saying, it's too much paperwork. Let's deal with it as a domestic issue. We're not interested in, say, the poorer side of Hockley. The jury quarter will go there because they're going to pay us a little extra commission, and they'll give us a bit of funding.
Going back to being stopped, you said that you were stopped sort of once every 3 weeks or so on average, and you'd just be going out to be buying a pint of milk and things like that. Yeah. How did that make you feel, T? And did it breed resentment, amongst you and your friends towards the police?
I will always see myself, even though I'm black, I'll always see myself as an individual, not as part of a group. I try and avoid that. I do understand why they do it, and I know they target certain areas. Maybe they target certain areas with a high black or Asian number of people. I'm not sure. Yeah. But the point is, even though police officers are trained, I think a lot of them go by their instincts, and I think they have to if they're on the street. And if their instincts are that person looks more suspicious, call it racial profiling if you like, then that's something the police internally really need to sort out. But I think my main issue is the police need to be accountable. So if they stop and search me, I want them to quote exactly what act they're supposedly enforcing in the law. And I've asked them sometimes, and they've been they have to go to their friends. What law are we enforcing?
Yeah.
And they don't know, so they have to go on the radio and say, which paper do we have to quote? That makes them look incompetent.
T, I appreciate your call. Thank you very much indeed. 03453 009956. Your stories of your encounters with the police, please, whatever colour you are. Let's try and build up a picture of what the general attitude is towards the police. The reason we're talking about this, big story today, The Times, the Chief Inspector of Police, Tom Windsor, has said that some minority communities are operating their own justice system without reporting even quite serious crimes to the police. And he cites parts of the Midlands as some of the worst affected. Well, I'm joined now by Chris Allen from Birmingham University's Institute for Research into Superdiversity. Good morning, Chris.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Chris, yeah, I'm good, thanks, Chris. What do you make when you hear comments like this from Tom Windsor?
Well, I was quite surprised, to be honest, because, I mean, as researchers, we always look for evidence. We look for, something to support claims before we make them. And from looking at this, there doesn't seem to be there's much evidence for it whatsoever. And even the West Midlands Police Chief Constable, Chris Sims, this morning in the Telegraph, has said that this is just wrong, that, that there's no real evidence for this. So it seems a very strange comment to be making.
Do you think comments like this are diversive?
I think they can be. I think that what they do is they feed into these kind of stereotypes that exist in society about certain minority communities that, that they don't want to be a part of, Birmingham society or West Midlands society or British society more widely. And I think that they do reinforce these stereotypes. And I think that really they can be divisive, but I also think that people, use a lot of common sense, and they kind of see that and they kind of dismiss it and go, yeah, as a lot of people have been saying previously on your show, but actually, that maybe this is, hasn't got much to substantiate it.
It seems odd, doesn't it, that the Chief Inspector of Police, this isn't just some bloke, this is a very powerful man, an influential man, would make such a sweeping statement without supplying any evidence to back this up. Why do you think he is saying this then? Does he know things that we don't know, or has he just made a massive gaffe?
Well, no, I mean, I would probably err on the latter, really, in terms of making a gaffe. I mean, all of us actually say things wrong at the wrong times, and I think that really what you see here is that if there's, if you're going to make a statement, if somebody's in a position of power and influence, if you're going to make a statement such as this, then obviously you back this up. And as you said previously, I think that there's already been questions asked about this, and it's gone from, well, instead of Birmingham, it's parts of Birmingham and parts of cities, and there seems to be a backtracking already. And I think what's happened here is that something's been said, and it's probably more a view of himself rather than actually a view of the police force or Scotland Yard or his position.
So, Chris, there is no evidence, as far as you are aware, to support stories that I've read in certain newspapers, I'm sure you can imagine which ones, that says that certain ethnic groups do sometimes employ their own justice, that a community leader, whatever that ridiculous phrase means, will often sort out disputes that could potentially actually be sorted out in court. Does that happen?
I think that we have to be realistic for this. And myself, growing up in the city of London, 40 years ago, I realised that, in kind of some of these more marginalised communities, that people do take, things into their own hands, and, it won't go to the police, and, there will be some sort of justice that's, I use that in speech marks, in terms of the way in which people respond. But I think that what you're seeing here is, some of the claims that's being made around sort of, murders and so on, I think that this is very, very strong stuff. And I think that, really we have to differentiate between the realities that, which goes on within all communities and really what's being said here. And I think that there's a big disparity between the two, a big gap, So I think that there are times when people within communities do take things into their own hands, and I would imagine that goes across quite a few different types of communities. But I think here what we're seeing is this kind of idea that it's, it's systematic, that it's widespread. I think there we need to take a little bit step back and just, look at it with an ounce of common sense.
Chris, I appreciate your time this morning. Thank you. Chris Allen, Birmingham University's Institute for Research into Superdiversity. Again, someone with a much better title than mine. What's my title? I'm just a bloke. 03453 009956. Your experiences with the police, if you wouldn't mind. Andy, stay there. I'll come to you next, but it's coming up to about 9:45. So let's get the travel now with Liz Saul.
Thank you very much, Ian. As you make your way in and out of Birmingham, you'll find one or two pockets of congestion. Through Handsworth on the A41 round Soho Road is busy. Round Hagley Road is looking a bit congested again in places, passing Monument Road and heading towards Five Ways Island. Round Sheldon is slow on the A45, passing the Wheatsheaf and Hobbsmoat Road. Expect a bit of congestion around the NEC today. A couple of events going on there. Traffic is looking OK, though, on the motorway route so far this morning, and no issues reported on public transport. If you can update us, call BBC WM 95.6 Travel 08453 002288.
We're talking to Victor from Redditch. You are an innocent man who has been wronged by the system.
I can't even open a bank account with the few pounds that I have because all my identification is out of date.
Mornings with Adrian Goldberg.
He's just been telling me he spent his first Christmas at Liberty for 17 years on his own.
Hello.
Hello, Deborah. You, I think, represent a housing association, is that right?
Basically, we put vulnerable people into living accommodation.
I think that's a very generous offer. I wish to thank her for calling in.
It's a pleasure. I wish him all the best. Thank you. Bye-bye.
I'm so touched by that. Deborah's just picking up the phone and offering help.
Adrian Goldberg.
Monday to Friday.
9 till 12.
On BBC WM 95.6.
So, do you trust the police? What are your experiences with them, good and bad? Please, 03453 009956. Andy's in Hales Owen. Morning, Andy.
Good morning, Ian.
Do you trust the police?
I don't. Well, I've always been suspicious of the police.
Tell me why.
Pardon?
Tell me why.
It's a long story, Ian, but I'll make it as brief as I can. I'm 71 now. I was 16 at the time, and where we lived with my mum and dad in Blackheath, there was a farm opposite. And anyway, cut long story, they was knocking the farm down. They wanted it to build a mini housing estate on there. And at the time, you can imagine with all the wood about and stuff, what was lying about in them days, there was a lot of wood apparently being pinched. And I was out this one particular night, and apparently the police was, I don't know, I can't remember now whether I was doing door-to-door, but anyway, apparently they came round to my mum and dad's house, and my dad, innocent, he just called the policeman in. Obviously, he should never have done that, but he did. And he said, also, and my dad was saying, also police, he was a young policeman as well. All he was doing was looking around the house, and he happened to see some leg ferrules. We used to have the old tile fireplaces, in them days. And where I worked in the plating shop. Yeah. And I asked the foreman of the plating shop this one particular day if it was all right if I could plate some reject. That was all reject. There was leg ferrules there to screw on the bottom of the old legs on the old tape recorders and things like that. And there was rejects. There was all scrap. And he says, yeah. I plated them, different colours, about 5 or 6, I can't remember now. And of course, when you put them on the fireplace, if you got a soft light on, it used to reflect all the pretty colours in the tiles. It was absolutely lovely. Well, of course, this policeman happened to say, them are nice, so-and-so. My dad didn't think. He says, oh, my son's done them. And he says, cut long story short, I came back, I seen the police. There was a police car outside the bottom of the entry where we lived, the house, and there was a policeman at the bottom of the entry. Of course, I ran. I thought there was someone up. And do you know, Ian, the policeman wouldn't even let me go in the house. They put me in the Panda car and questioning me about these legs. I hadn't got a clue what he was going on about.
So Andy, you had a bad experience with the police, but that was 55 years ago.
It's still raw, Ian. It's still raw for the simple reason was. Can you believe what they done? They took me to court. I went to court. I had my photographs took. I had my fingerprints done in Albury police station there, as it was. And the policeman was locked out of court. Nobody turned up from the company. There was a letter sent that I'd had permission from the plating shop foreman that I could do these leg ferrules. They were scrap. So
you got off scot-free?
I was completely... Anyway, when I went to work the following day, I had to go and see the welfare officer. And he says, unfortunately, even though it was innocent and all this and that, not guilty and so, it was locked out of court, I still had the sack. They had no... He said, I got no jurisdiction, but it's the company rules. I'm sorry, we have to relieve you. There was two of my friends were so shocked about this. They even packed their jobs in and walked out.
Andy, listen, I appreciate your story, but it's interesting, isn't it? That happened 55 years ago or thereabouts. And he still doesn't trust the police. 03453 009956. Coming up a bit later on, just after 10, we'll be talking about gay conversion. Can you be turned straight? Love to get your calls on that one. Gay or straight, would love to get your calls on that one. You can start calling now, 03453 009956. School holidays in a second, but before that, Dave's in Atherstone. Morning, Dave. Morning, Ian. Do you trust the police?
Yeah, generally.
Dave, are you in the same room as your telephone? I can barely hear you.
Oh. Is that any better?
Not really. Are you on speakerphone or something?
No. I've got
I'll tell you what, Dave, listen, we'll let you go. We'll give you a call back, see if we can get you on a better line, because that sounded absolutely awful, and I've been told you have a good point to make, so we want to get that. 03453 009956. You're listening to BBC WM 95.6.
Iain Lee.
On BBC WM
95.6. The voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
03453 009956. One of the things I hate in the world. He said he wasn't on speakerphone. Speakerphone. Oh, speakerphone or hands-free. They are just awful inventions. And isn't it funny? All these mobile phones, they're getting cleverer and cleverer. You can go, you can surf the net, you can do your emails, you can feed the cat, you can find out what sex baby you're going to have. But you can't make a decent phone call on them. Can you? Now, a story that we've been talking about a lot on BBC WM this week. It's really got me thinking, this one. A Shropshire couple have been ordered to pay £993 for taking their kids on a family holiday during school term time. Stuart and Natasha Sutherland from Trench appeared at Telford Magistrates Court after refusing to pay fines for their children's unauthorised absence in September last year. The family booked the holiday to Greece, the island of Rhodes. Very, very nice place. Very nice place. Before the new rules were introduced, which cut schools' discretion to approve holidays. Well, this opens up a huge debate, doesn't it? Firstly, and this is, I know this is what you've been talking about a lot, particularly with Caroline Martin this week. Firstly, is it OK to take your kids out of school to take them on holiday? I say yes. I say yes, it is. I think my wife disagrees, but I say yes, it is. Because I do think a week away, 2 weeks, pushing it, definitely a week away, on a wonderful island like Rhodes, or in Spain, or even in Dorset, it can be just as rewarding, if not more so, than 5 days at school. You may disagree, 03453 009956. But I guess the other side of the debate is, a lot of these families are taking their kids on holiday during term time because it's so much cheaper. You try booking a holiday in half term, or you try booking a holiday in the summer holidays. Flippin' heck! It's so expensive. 03453 009956 is the telephone number. Stuart Sutherland, the father in question here, spoke to Caroline Martin this week. He said family time is important.
Yes, it is very important. I quite agree with you. But also I feel that family time is important as well. At the moment, because me and my wife both work, it's either one, it's like a rolling door in our house. One's at work, the other one's at home, vice versa. And we felt as though family time was needed to keep the family on track.
Well, if school holidays were cheaper, would there be such a problem? Joined now by Andy Tomlinson in Sutton Travel. Morning, Andy.
Morning, Ian.
It's a bit of a rip-off, isn't it? The price hike during summer holidays and half-term.
There's always a spike in prices any time that the schools are off, or bank holiday weekends as well. And it's all about a supply and demand point of view. The airlines and the hotels do unfortunately pump their prices up, when there's more demand, such as the school holidays. And, I suppose it's like the old situation, if you buy a dozen red roses the first week in November, they're probably off the price of what they are when you buy them just before Valentine's Day, when there's more people in the markets. And that's where the hotels and the airlines look to recoup some of the money that they lose in sort of quiet, low-price times of the year.
But it's not just a little price hike. Sometimes it's double, and some occasions even triple what it could be at other times of the year.
Well, I've just been looking, for example, this morning at a holiday to Florida for a family of four. What we've seen over the last sort of 6 months since the new rules have come into place, it's definitely a hot topic of contention for our clients, and, where people in the past wouldn't think twice about taking their kids out of school for a week or a fortnight. People are now sort of like looking and saying, well, yeah, maybe we'll take them out of school for 2 or 3 days, just to sort of, piggyback one of the school holidays. But looking at a holiday to Easter, to Orlando this coming Easter, if you go out on the 12th of April, which is the day after the schools break up, for a 2-week holiday to Florida, so you depart on the Saturday, and then you'd land back in on Sunday the 27th of April, the day before the schools go back. So this would mean not having to take the kids out of school for any days at all. You're looking at £5,500 for that holiday, to include flights and accommodation and a car rental for the 2 weeks. Now, if the family were to depart just 3 days later, on Tuesday the 15th of April, that would mean they're back on Wednesday the 30th of April. So keeping the kids off school for the first 3 days of the new term, that exact identical holiday, which was $5,500, would actually reduce to £3,000.
Wow.
So sort of like, it's 45% or £2,500 cheaper just to go 3 days later.
And the thing is, the family will get paid. Will get fined £60 per kid from school. It makes financial sense to just pay the fine, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, if it's two parents and two children, I think the fine would be around about £240. So, you know, a lot of families are of the opinion that if they're saving £2,500, you know, they'd be willing to, pay the fine of £240, and at the same time, you know, give their children a fantastic life experience by spending, 2 weeks in a different country. We do get a lot of families who specifically ask to go to Spain because their children are, learning Spanish at school, or going on a short break to Italy because the children are learning Italian. So, there's obviously a certain element of learning and life education, really.
Now, I agree with you, Andy, that some of it, you can get amazing life experiences by going abroad. But let's be honest, a lot of the families will be taking their kids to the Crocodile Club, or to these resorts where they're contained within a very British environment. They won't actually be seeing any foreign culture or even any foreign food.
Yeah, a certain amount of people will be doing that, but even if you go to Spain or Greece, generally there's new foods for the children to try. They're looking at sort of street signs and things that are sort of done in written in a different language, and menus in different language. So I think it's always a good experience for them.
It's a tough one. I'm a parent, but I also realise this is how business works, doesn't it? You're right. It's the law of demand. Is it a con, Andy? Are parents paying the price?
I think I wouldn't class it as a con. I think obviously the supply and demand there has been there and is evident every year. Families can benefit by booking holidays well in advance and still take advantage of early booking offers that are currently on for example, the holidays. For this summer, free child places, early booking discounts, etc. And the reason for every holiday that's sold for £150 for a week departing this time of the year in January, that's obviously a loss making for the airlines and the hoteliers and the tour operators, and it's a bit of a way of sort of recuperating their money that way.
And this is a concern that your customers have raised to you, have they? They come in and they say, well, we don't know what to do because it will conflict with this term time.
Yeah, it's definitely something over the last 6 months since the education departments at the local councils wrote to parents via the schools. It's definitely something that parents are a lot more mindful of these days. It's a regular topic of conversation in our business, as I said.
Andy, I appreciate your time this morning. It's Andy Tomlinson from Sutton Travel. I find this fascinating. As a dad, my boys are 4 and 2. 4 last week, 2 on Tuesday. Oh, my goodness, what's going on? Find this fascinating. So 2 debates here, really. 2 questions. What do you think? Is it OK to take your kids out of school during term time, to take them on a holiday? 03453 00 9956. I know you've kind of been having that conversation throughout the week, particularly with Caroline Martin. So we can do that, but we could also expand it. Are school holidays, are the holidays that you can book during school holiday time, are they too expensive? Is it a rip-off by the travel companies? 03453 00 9956. Des in Wolverhampton, I'll speak to you in a minute. Coming up as well, can you be cured of being gay? 03453 00 9956.
Voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
BBC WM 95.6.
It's 10 o'clock. Let's get the latest news now. Here's Rebecca Dixon.
Police in Edinburgh say they've found the body of a young child, which they strongly believe to be that of Mikhail Kula, the 3-year-old boy reported missing on Thursday. His mum has been detained for questioning. Detectives have been searching a bungalow in a place in Firth, across the Firth of Forth from Edinburgh, which is believed to belong to one of her relatives. The Edinburgh City Councillor for the area where the family live, Cammy Day, says people are shocked.
It's tragic and devastating news for myself, my colleagues and the local community who for the last few days have tirelessly worked to try and do their bit to try and help find young Mikhail. We're down here in Ferrygate Crescent today seeing local people come and lay gifts and candles and flowers. I just hope the North Edinburgh community can continue to show the strong spirit they've done for the last few days.
Back here, and the Police and Crime Commissioner for the West Midlands says they're working hard to engage with minority communities in response to claims that people are not contacting the force when crimes are committed. The head of the Police Standards Watchdog, Tom Windsor, says communities in parts of the Midlands are dishing out their own punishments rather than calling the police. But Bob Jones has told Iain Lee on BBC WM that's not a true reflection in Birmingham and the Black Country.
The biggest problem we have with underreporting in deprived inner city areas is, of course, where they can't afford the insurance, it's not perceived to be worthwhile doing the reporting. But we have been making considerable progress about that, and particularly in terms of serious issues. As I say, there is more police activity in those areas than any other area in the community.
A man from Birmingham has been released on bail after he was arrested on suspicion of attending a terrorist training camp in Syria. The 21-year-old from Sheldon was stopped by police officers from the West Midlands when he arrived on a flight from Istanbul to Gatwick yesterday afternoon. This case is not connected to the 2 men from Handsworth who were charged with terrorism offences last night. Friends and family of a Birmingham man dying from a rare type of blood cancer have launched an international hunt to find a stem cell donor. 27-year-old Ed Fox was diagnosed just weeks after moving to Belgium to live with his girlfriend. Ben Craddock is Ed's friend. He says it's been really tough for them all.
It's difficult to put into words, really. You never think you'll experience this. At this age, you'd see your friend go through something so traumatic, and also the rest of Ed's friends who are very close to him have to put up with that, and it's really devastating.
And West Bromwich Albion has been issued with an ultimatum by its sponsors Zoopla to sack Nicholas Anelka or lose their £3 million sponsorship deal. According to reports in a marketing magazine, the property website is said to be unhappy about the controversial Quinnell gesture last month at West Ham. Anelka is currently under investigation by the FA. The club says it won't be making a statement until the investigation has finished. A look at the weather, cloudy and breezy, some light rain around as well today, highs of 9 degrees Celsius, 48 degrees Fahrenheit. Tonight, the rain will continue into the evening, feeling cold as well, frosty, lows of -1 degrees Celsius, 30 degrees Fahrenheit. BBC WM 95.6 News, there's more online at bbc.co.uk/WM.
The Voice. The Voice.
The Voice.
The Voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
They have kids and they want somebody else to keep them.
Social services shouldn't exist. I know quite a few people that have had pay cuts in their wages just to hang on to their job.
Iain Lee, Saturdays
9 till 12.
BBC WM 95.6.
Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC WM 95.6. Well, I've lasted longer than I did last week. 45 minutes I think I staggered through before I literally collapsed to the floor in a heap. Thanks again to Adrian Goldberg for that. Lots coming up on the show this morning. We're already taking loads of calls about do you trust the police? This has come from the Chief Inspector of Police, Tom Windsor, in an interview saying that some minority communities are operating their own justice system without reporting serious crimes to the police. Well, we've kind of expanded that this morning to ask, do you trust the police? 03453 00 9956. Just before the break, we were talking about school holidays, and do you take your kids out of school at term time to take them on holiday? Been a big story this week. I know that Caroline Martin has been covering it after one family have been ordered to pay £993 for taking their kids on a family holiday during school term. Well, would you do it? Have you done it? And are holiday companies ripping us off? And also this hour, we'll be asking, can you stop being gay? Two protest meetings are being held this weekend against a private member's bill aiming to ban the controversial practice of gay conversion or gay cure therapy. Gay or straight or bi or whatever you are, I'd love to get your thoughts on that. 03453 009956.
Have your say.
Across the West Midlands, call 03453 009956.
BBC WM 95.6.
OK. Des has been waiting. Des, good morning.
Good morning, Ian.
Des, whereabouts are you calling from?
Wolverhampton.
Is it miserable there now?
Yes, it doesn't bother me. I'd sooner have it like this than having the sun shining every day.
Sorry?
Yeah, you get fed
You
up.
miserable old so-and-so, really?
You do, you get fed up with it.
OK, fair enough.
Give you a chance, you see, in this country. I've
No.
travelled the world, I've took my kids out of school and that, and I've had a better education than what they have sitting at school, like, you know. But the problem is, as well, what I've gathered, my friend was Scotch and also his wife. And his daughter used to go up to Scotland on the summer holidays.
Yeah.
And I said to my daughter when I was young, like, you know, I says, I'm 30 now, like, but I said to my daughter, I says, how do you go on? I says, oh, it's boring. I says, they go back to school when we break up. So how does that work?
Oh. So what? Hang on. The Scots have got different term times, haven't they?
Yeah, they must have. When we break up, they go back to school, according to it. Well,
I know they used to. I don't know if they still do. If we have any Scots people listening, 03453 009956.
Clarify it.
Because then that would mean if you were Scottish, you'd get cheaper holidays than the English.
Of course you would.
Oh, no wonder they want independence. They're a sneaky lot. Thank you very much for that, Des. Let's go to Paul. Morning, Paul.
Hi.
Paul, what have you got for us?
I booked a holiday to Florida October, end of October, beginning of November this year. Yeah. And there's a holiday. The school breaks up sometime middle of October for half term, and I priced that week, and it was coming up at 4,800 to go for one adult and two kids to go.
Where were you going to? The moon or something?
No, Florida. It was only international drive, and it was from Manchester, not from Birmingham Airport, because it was even dearer for Birmingham Airport. Yeah. So I booked the 4th of November, and it came up at 2,500, virtually after price, for the same place and the same flight and the same place where I'm going to. So
you're taking the kids out of school?
Yes.
How old are your kids?
15 and 13.
OK, so important years. If it's 5, 6, 7, 8, really, what are they going to miss? Janet and John. But 13 and 15, they're important GCSE years, aren't they?
They are, yeah, they are. But they have 6 weeks in the summer holiday, right? I don't know why they don't have 4 weeks in the summer and have 2 weeks floating. So people like us can afford to take them out when you want to take them out. It's 6 weeks in the summer. It's too long, I think. And that's why I've done that. It's the first time I've been there, so...
Have you spoken to the school about it, Paul?
Well, we had a word with them, and then they said it's down to you, but you could get a fine. It depends on the attendance. If they get to a certain percent of the attendance, like 90%,
if you're saying saving about £2,000, just over £2,000, it's worth paying the couple of £100 fine that you'll get, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about, because it's only about £300 the fine is. And the gentleman who got fined before, he didn't pay his fine. That's why it went up so much. So if I save myself £2,500, I'd rather pay the £300 if I get fined.
And Paul, finally, are you going to ask the school, because I've been thinking about this a lot in the week, and when my boys are older, if we ever got round to doing this, although my wife strongly disagrees, and she, of course, always wins the arguments at home, I would ask the school for a little bit of work that they could take and they could do in their rooms. Would you be doing that, getting in touch with the school and saying, look, they're going to be away for a couple of weeks, can you give us some books or some coursework for them to so they keep up?
Yeah, I'll do that, yeah, if they say that, yeah, but they haven't really said that to me. All they said to me is that you shouldn't really take them out in school time. So I'm going to do what I think, because last year they had 8 days off because of Teachers Training Day. We didn't find a school for that, did we?
Paul, thank you for that. Oh, sorry. Oh, go on, make your point. Sorry.
I was going to say that when we was at school, we never had Teachers Training Day. Well, that's my point, anyway.
Paul, thank you very much indeed. 03453 009956. What do you think? Paul's going to take the kids out. He's going to save a couple of grand. It's a lot of money, isn't it? And when everybody is struggling just that bit, saving £2,000 on a holiday is quite amazing. Now, there'll be some of you listening saying, well, you know, what's wrong with saving up? I certainly didn't get a holiday every year when I was growing up. But it's important, isn't it, to spend time with your family. And if you are on holiday, you're forced to spend time with each other, whether you like it or not. 03453 009956. And I would ask for a little... Listen, we're going to be out of school for a week. I don't want the boys to fall behind. Just give us... not too much. Just give us 40 minutes of homework a night that they can do, or a book that they have to read. Gary's in Chemsley Wood. Morning, Gary.
Morning.
Gary, what's your story?
Well, it's not to do with taking children out for a holiday. It's to do with... I've got twin boys, and the one had conjunctivitis suddenly in the morning, you know, when he woke up. So we took the other twin to school and explained to the teacher that the other lad was ill with conjunctivitis and it's contagious, you know, and then they accepted it. But then a few days later, we had a letter saying... it was written in a way to say how bad it is for your child to be losing time from school. You know, he was ill.
Oh.
But the letter, it made you feel like it was really bad, you know.
So they were they were laying a little bit of a guilt trip on you, were they, Gary?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, it was. The letter was written terribly, you know, to make you feel bad. But the child was not very well, you know. He was only off 2 days. And then he was fine again, but, I mean, they must send them letters out like no one's business, you know, regardless of how
Do
much
you think, Gary, missing 2 days, missing 5 days of school, in the great scheme of things, is that really going to ruin their education?
No, especially when they're not very well, you know. I mean, you can't do nothing then. They've got to be off school. But to do with losing time for a holiday is just irresponsible, if you ask me. I mean, you know, they're saying they're not going to pay the fine. What they're going to do then? They're going to go out shoplifting and they're not going to pay the fine then. I mean, they're making it that because it's just too many people doing it, aren't they? You know, I don't agree with it. I mean,
you don't agree with what? But taking the kids out of school for a holiday?
No, I don't.
Why not?
Because they're supposed to be at school. That's what schooling is about, you know.
Oh, someone's got a message. We'll let you get that. Gary, thank you very much indeed. 03453 009956. I don't see a problem with taking your kid out of school for a week. 5 days. Really, in the great scheme of things, what's it going to do? 2 weeks? Pushing it a bit. You better be going somewhere special. Any more than that, you've got a problem. But really, if you're taking your kids abroad, or even if you're taking them to Dorset, or I don't know why I keep saying Dorset, or Cornwall, or Devon, they'll learn just as much, if not more, from that holiday experience, won't they? Going to an airport as a kid, that's better than a day at school in terms of what you pick up about social interaction, about how society works, about responsibility, about passports, about travel, about behaviour, about manners. 03453 009956. Something I feel quite strongly about. I don't see a problem with taking your kids out of school for a week. Here's a confession. I don't think I ever did. I don't think I ever bunked off of school when I was a kid. You know what? I wish I'd done it. I wish I'd bunked off of school. I really do. In the great scheme of things, I'm 40 years old now. I've got 2 boys, a wife, quite a nice house, and I'm doing all right work-wise. If I'd have bunked off school a little bit, if my parents had taken me out for an extra week of holiday, I'd probably be in exactly the same position. But I'd also have those wonderful memories. 03453 009956. It's 10:15. Means it's time to get the travel now. Here's Liz.
Thank you very much, Ian. It's not looking too bad on the whole, actually. It's picked up a bit as you head along Hagley Road, going in and out of Birmingham, passing Monument Road and towards the Five Ways Island. As you make your way through towards the M6, it's not looking too bad in the roadworks. Moves well heading through the Birmingham exits, the junctions 5 towards 8, and further along around 10A, where there's also roadworks going on. It's looking OK on public transport as well so far this morning. If you can update us, call BBC WM 95.6 travel 08453 002288.
Pete Morgan at breakfast.
The Strictly Tour is coming to Birmingham. Reporter Kath, she has been out stalking the stars this morning.
Arguably the biggest star of the show, of course.
Of course.
Mr.
Yes.
Len Goodman, how are you, sir?
I'm very, very well.
Are you a Birmingham fan?
I am a Birmingham fan. I used to dance here. There used to be the Tower Ballroom. I used to go there all the time.
This is amazing. I'm just about to dance with Len Goodman.
Go back on your left, side on your right, close your feet. Boom.
That's it.
Pete Morgan at breakfast.
I reckon you'll be on next year Strictly 100%.
Oh, Kath, he seems such a really lovely bloke.
He was an absolute star.
On BBC WM 95.6.
I think we're going to make it to the end of the show. I've just got a feeling. I've got a feeling I might be able to last this 3-hour shift this morning. If you missed last week, you won't have a clue what I'm talking about. And do you know what? It's probably for the best. Coming up, can you turn gay people straight? 03453 009956. Some texts and emails. Helen has texted in 81333, starting her text WN. She's a teacher. She says the government needs to do something with travel agents and airlines. They need to enforce price restriction rules urgently. As a teacher, it's a nightmare. I guess something we haven't really talked about this morning is that teachers are going to have to pay those extortionate holiday prices as well. Teachers are going to be stung by the travel companies. Now, there will be some that argue that teachers get far too much money and they can afford it. But I think that most of us would agree, wouldn't we, that teachers don't get paid that much money, maybe the head teachers and deputy heads, but your average teacher in the classroom isn't going to get paid that much money. If you're a teacher, could you give me a call? 03453 009956. Can you afford to go on decent, I want to say decent, holidays during the summer? What do I mean by decent? Trips to America, trips to Spain. Can you afford it? Or are you completely priced out? Suzanne in Stourbridge has texted in, the schools don't seem to worry about the education of children when the schools close because of snow or when they're on strike. The snow thing is a real bugbear of mine. I can remember once the school closing twice when I grew up because of bad weather. One was because of the storm of 87, was it? I think. And one was because of snow. Those were the only 2 days that it was closed. And even on the day that there was snow, we still traipsed into school and we sat in the school hall like frozen lemmings. But thick snow, generally, apart from that one instance, the school was open. Nowadays, Gordon Bennett. Oh, there might be some snow next week. Close the schools! All the schools are closing. There might be snow a week on Thursday. Let's close the schools. No. They don't close the schools in Sweden or Switzerland or other places that have snow regularly. The kids put on some thick boots, thick gloves, a scarf, and they march in. The teachers do the same. Oh, no, not in Britain. Oh, there might be some snow. Let's close the schools, shall we? Can we? Really gets on my nerves. Gary's emailed in, ian.lee@bbc.co.uk. Oh, dear. I would never have... Oh, dear Gary. I would never have wanted to miss school when I was younger. I didn't enjoy family holidays that much, as we always went to Devon, as we didn't have the money for expensive holidays. If over the age of 11, maybe the kids should get asked if they want to take time out of school. It's always assumed children will want time off school. Of course they will, Gatford. Of course they will, Gary. Because kids want to live. Kids want to experience life, being stuck in a classroom reading, I don't know, what, Shakespeare? Really? And you're right, it's different ages. Up to the age of 11, doesn't really matter, does it? What are we doing? Janet and John, basic maths. Nothing spectacular. 13, 14, 15, GCSE. Again, it's 5 days. It's 5 days. For goodness sakes. I do think that there is a real tendency to these days to deny children their childhood. Kids aren't allowed to climb trees. Some places we hear they're not allowed to play conkers. They're not allowed to bunk off for a week and go on holiday. They can't go to Barmouth for a week. Oh dear, really? Come on. Give them a break. Let kids be kids. 03453 00 9956. Eddie has texted in 81333, starting his text WM to make sure it comes to the right place. I agree with you about taking kids out of school for holidays, as the schools are fining parents for this. Can we fine schools for having teacher training days in term time? And it is an interesting one, isn't it? What is a teacher training day? OK, put your phones down. It's a day where they're training teachers. But what's the problem? Yeah, school's closed tomorrow, teacher training day. School's closed next Monday, there's a strike. Hang on a second, I'm a parent, I've got a job. Although I'm not considering you to be childcare, I am thinking, what am I going to do? I've got to take a day off work as well? Really? I do want your thoughts on this, please. If you wouldn't mind getting in touch, you can email iain.lee@bbc.co.uk. You can send me a text, 81333. Start your text WM, or the best way, and in fact, we've had some great calls this morning. Let's get some more great calls. We've got a few lines free. Give me a phone call, 08459 455 555. Oh, that's the wrong number. That's the other job. Thank you for that. 03453 00 9956.
Iain Lee
on BBC WM
95.6. The voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
Deary me, that's the other gig. Phone them if you want. They'll be more than happy to talk to you. They won't have a clue what you're talking about, though. Now, here's a cracking story, and I really want your views on this. Can you stop being gay? Good question, isn't it? 2 protest meetings are being held this weekend against a private member's bill aiming to ban the controversial practice of gay conversion or gay cure therapy. Well, Labour MP Geraint Davis has introduced the bill and says it's necessary to stop the NHS referring people for the treatment. Well, I'm joined by Dr Mike Davidson from Christian group Core Issues Trust, which backs therapy to turn gay people straight. And also on the line is Luke Trill, Head of Education from gay rights charity Stonewall. Good morning to both of you.
Hello, Iain.
Morning. Mike, let's start with you first. Tell me about this therapy to turn gay people straight. What is it and how does it work?
Well, we're not into gay cure, and we're not people who want to do something against people's will, so we're not in any way forcing anybody to do something. But we are concerned to preserve the freedom and the right for individuals to move away from homosexuality, and that's what we are here to do.
The freedom and the right to move away from homosexuality.
Yes.
That does sound like a conversion to me.
No, well, you see, the thing is with conversion, it's a word that does something, doesn't it? It's intended to convey something like a light switch. 1, 2, 3, and you're fine, and off you go and live your life. We're not saying that after a few sessions on the couch with a therapist that you are going to be free from homosexuality. But people who aspire to change and to reduce or eliminate homosexuality or homosexual feelings need to be supported. On what grounds can we say that a married man who has chosen with his partner to stay in his marriage for his children and because he loves his wife, on what grounds can we say that they should not receive help and therefore should not receive the best therapeutic help that is available to them? There are no grounds for doing so.
Well, one might argue that the grounds could be the gentleman shouldn't have got married and had children perhaps in the first place, or perhaps he's bisexual, and you know, it does seem a little bit odd to me. How does this therapy work?
It works with individuals who want to look at any environmental factors that have influenced their journey. Are there traumatic incidences? Are there difficulties in socializing with the same sex or the opposite sex? Is it confidence issues? Is it body image issues. Remember, the scientific data is clear. The Human Genome Project has discovered no gene. There is nothing in the genetic code that makes a person gay. And therefore, if there is a strong environmental influence, we surely need to be aware of what might be used to turn that around. And that's what
Mike?
we're trying to represent.
Stay there. Let me bring Luke Trill, Head of Education from gay rights charity Stonewall, into the conversation. Luke, what do you make of it? It makes quite a good point, doesn't it? If people are struggling with their sexuality and would rather not, is there any problem in helping them, face one way rather than the other?
Well, sexual orientation isn't a disease that can be cured, and I know that Mike says that this isn't a cure, but he says that he thinks that homosexuality can be reduced or eliminated, which sounds quite a lot like a cure to me. And any attempt to cure gay people is really damaging to self-esteem. It contributes to unhappiness, and all of the credible studies that have been done on this type of therapy, it can have a really severe impact on mental health. These are really voodoo therapies.
But if you're a married man, and we do hear these stories happen, and I suspect this happens more than perhaps we know. If you're a married man married to a woman, and you've got kids, and yet you are also having desires over gentlemen, and you'd rather not, is there any harm in going to try and reduce those desires?
Yes, because they can have a really severe impact on your mental health and self-esteem. Some of the stories that we hear from people who've come out of this type of therapy are really quite deeply disturbing. And there are lots of medical practices which people, might think they want, but we know both aren't effective and are damaging, and we regulate the result. And I think it's interesting that all of the professional bodies, including the Association of Christian Counsellors, have condemned this practice now. They've said that it serves no purpose and is harmful.
Mike, it's damaging and it's harmful.
If we were banning therapies that have been shown objectively to harm, I would support that fully. But what we are banning is people's freedom to access something here. Remember, Scott Lilienfeld, the world authority on psychotherapeutic harm, has not listed therapy in this direction. And we need to bear in mind there is not one modality that is brought to bear on all of this. There are many people who work from different points of view. The important thing is we need the freedom to develop methodologies that will help people to do the work in the counselling room that they want to do. Why is it that Stonewall are preventing people from entering into this on the guise of harm, where there is no scientific credible evidence that says that harm is directly linked to this therapy? We have asked the Royal College of Psychiatrists, the UKCP and others to provide us with the peer-reviewed scientific journals, and they refuse to do it because
Mike,
they aren't there.
Let's put that point to Luke. Luke?
Yeah, it's not Stonewall that's stopping people from doing this at all. It's all of the professional bodies, the people who are the experts.
The gay
in this
and
area,
lesbian special interest groups within the professional bodies are doing it, Luke.
Including in the Association of Christian Counsellors, who this week have said that they will no longer allow that.
The name
Mike,
Christian.
Can I put this to you? I would imagine that from a Christian group with the name Core Issues Trust, that you perhaps consider homosexuality to be a sin?
We do, but that doesn't mean that we are imposing our view, our traditional and
no, but it does
orthodox
mean that
view
you
of
are coming from a
homosexuality
slightly
on everybody else in the world.
But it does mean you are coming from a biased point of view, which you've just accused Luke of doing.
We are coming from... I am a person who would hold to Christian values, but the point I'm making is the
So it's in your interest to get rid of
literature
homosexuality because it's sinful.
It certainly was sinful for me and for those who aspire to live in a way that is consistent with the Bible. It is certainly harmful and sinful. But those are not values we are imposing on people who do not want to go in the direction that we want to. But I'm afraid Stonewall is imposing a set of values and is using the claim that the science has closed down on this. And I'm afraid that's incorrect. That's what I'm concerned about.
I mean, one of the things which I do find disturbing in this debate is, your claim to speak on behalf of Christians. I mean, one of the things that I can say is, members of my local church would be horrified to be associated with any of this type of voodoo therapy. But this isn't about closing down debate. This is about the professional bodies saying that we have looked into this and we have found that there are very real harms that come from this kind of supposed therapy. And as such, we're unwilling to endorse it. It is dangerous. And I think, you hit the nail on the head. This is motivated by the fact that the Core Issues Trust have a real animus towards gay people. They don't want people to be gay. And so what happens is the people who promote this type of therapy prey on those who might be confused about their sexuality because they hear the negative views from people like the Core Issues Trust and others, and then encourage them to go into some therapy which can have really severe harms, on mental health. It can lead to self-harm. It can lead to suicide. That's what's going on here.
Luke, is part of the problem that we are looking at sexuality as black and white with a bit of grey in the middle? You're gay, you're straight, you're bi. But there are different shades within that spectrum, aren't there?
Well, absolutely, but that still doesn't mean that there's any way that you can change someone's sexual orientation. And I think it's interesting, that Core Issues Trust and other groups who've held this conference have promoted ideas like the fact that Tom Daley is only in a relationship with a man because his father died. They're the type of despicable things that these groups are saying.
There's no hatred at all involved in having concern for people about the situation that they find themselves in.
Do you think that Tom Daley's gay because his dad died?
On that.
Mike, do you think that Tom Daley is gay because his dad died?
I have no idea about why Tom Daley is gay. All I know is we must be very careful not to misquote individuals who have been brave enough to raise the issue about very young people being partnered with people who are considerably older. We need to be concerned about that.
Could you cure Tom Daley?
Well, as I've tried to explain to you, we're not into cure because we don't believe that what we're dealing with is a disease. What we
Could you turn him
offer
straight?
is the freedom to examine these issues and to look at the possibility of change or of reducing things. We never
Could you turn him straight?
raise people's expectations.
OK, Mike. Can I speak on something I think I heard? Have you been through this therapy yourself?
I was definitely helped through a range of therapeutic interventions over a number of years. There was no quick fix. Some was helpful, some was not helpful. The most important thing was a credible and viable relationship with a counsellor who believed in what I wanted to achieve. It wasn't
so what was your
situation? Something on me.
What was your situation, Mike, that you wanted changed?
I was married. I was conflicted in my feelings towards men. I knew that there had been a time when those feelings were not there, but I also remembered that from a very young age I had those feelings. I love my wife. I'm still married to my wife. I wanted to raise my children in the best possible way, and I wanted to do it within a relationship that had integrity, not one that was open and was violated by me being double-minded and going in more than one direction. I felt that that was harmful to my wife and to me and detrimental to my children. And I felt it was very important that I made up my mind.
So while you were married to your wife, were you acting out sexually with men as well?
Yes, on occasion. In maybe small ways. And maybe in fleeting... it's very difficult to talk about this.
We don't need to go into detail, of course. We've got young ears listening.
Yes, I'm answering your question, certainly, that yes, I did, and there were some inconsistencies, a great deal of guilt, but I think it's fair enough, surely, for a man to make up his mind and then to go in that direction. Why can we not have therapists who are willing to support individuals to do that? We say that a person-centered approach and a client's goals and aspirations and responsibilities have to be primary in all mental health work, except in one area which is being objected to
Mike, very
by
quickly, 'cause
Stonewall
we're
and
running
gay
out of time.
activists.
Luke, I know you need to go, but just very quickly, Mike, would you say those gay urges have completely gone now?
I'm not saying that I have never had a gay urge again, or a homosexual urge again, but the point is I am not... my emotional template has changed completely. I am not a man who is looking for completion and fulfillment in a relationship with another man. And for me, that is a radical change.
Okay,
I don't
Mike.
understand why people can't see that.
Mike, let me just go to Luke. Luke, it's helped Mike's life. It's strengthened his marriage with his wife. That's got to be a positive thing, hasn't it?
Well, no, because we know that there are hundreds of other people for whom it's had really severe consequences on their mental health and self-esteem. We can't take one supposed case and then make policy on the basis of that. What we need to do is look at, what the experts are saying, what reviews have said, that this can have a really damaging effect on people's health and well-being. And, one thing that I would just like to end by saying, it does seem a tragedy that, these people who make so much noise about being Christian are campaigning on this issue of trying to cure gay people rather than, trying to raise awareness of poverty in the developing world. Surely there are better causes that groups like the Core Issues Trust could be dedicating their time to, which make a real difference and really do help people.
Luke, I appreciate your time. I know we kept you a little bit longer than we promised, so thank you for that. Luke Trill, Head of Education from gay rights charity Stonewall. And the other voice you heard, the other very honest voice you heard there, Dr. Mike Davidson from Christian group Core Issues Trust, which backs therapy to help gay people perhaps correct... I'm trying to be really careful in my language here. I'm struggling. Helps gay people correct their behaviour towards heterosexuality. Wasn't he honest? Got to appreciate that. Right, it's over to you, dear listener. 03453 009956. If you're gay, if you're straight, what are your thoughts on that? If you're gay, why would you want to turn straight? I imagine, and I'm probably going to sound like an old idiot here, I would imagine that being gay, particularly when you're younger, it can be a right pain in the neck, can't it? Can't it? Because it's not the, in inverted commas, the norm. You've got to come out to your parents, your friends. Is it hard work? Do you sometimes think, I wish I was straight? Life would be so much easier. You can hear me stomping through this in my size 12 boots, can't you? I'm probably offending all of you. I do apologise. 03453 009956. Can you stop being gay? I guess, is the basic question. Cliff's in Tipton. Morning, Cliff.
Good morning, Ian. It's nice to hear you well again.
Oh, my goodness. Last week, I was in a terrible state. Thank you again to Adrian Goldberg for stepping in. I really owe that man a drink. He's a legend.
I was ill over Christmas. I had some lurgy or something. My glands swelled up. I couldn't eat. I couldn't swallow. I could hardly talk, which some people said was an advantage.
Yes.
But as regards the gay issue, I knew I was gay as early as 9 because I had different feelings about chaps, although I couldn't explain it. But I think that the pressures of society are such, not so much these days, but when I was a teenager, that you were expected to get married. And despite all my mother's efforts, quite a strong one at one time, she wanted to marry me off to one of the local shopkeeper's daughters. I'm glad I didn't have to see her these days. She didn't succeed in that. I found happiness a good many years ago. I've been with the same person for 37 years, monogamously. But I think that chap you had on, who you wheedled out from him, that he had the Christian ideology in what he was doing. I think that Christians shoot themselves in the foot, because my father used to go to Sunday school. I used to read the Bible a good many years ago. And one passage that stands out is when God said, "You are created in my image." Now, does that mean that God is gay himself? Does that mean that he is bisexual or what?
Oh,
and
dear.
as you quite rightly said...
I can hear the switchboard filling up now. He just said God's bisexual. 03453 009956. Yeah, carry on.
I think that, as you quite rightly said, sexuality...
Oh, where's he gone? We've lost him. Cliff? Cliff's disappeared. Never mind. OK, let's go to... we'll try and get Cliff back. 03453 009956. Maybe he's been smited. There's a chance he's been smited for suggesting that God is gay or indeed bisexual. Oh dear, we're going to get so many complaints. I've really enjoyed working here at BBC WN. Cliff, you back?
Yes.
I thought you'd been smited.
Say that God, if he exists, and I doubt it very much, is bisexual.
No, I know what you were saying.
That it was an idea. I mean, some folks said years ago that Christ was a gay man since he had so many men.
He was hanging out with fellas all the time.
As apostles.
Cliff, at any point in your life, did you think, it would be so much easier if I was straight? If only there was some way of getting rid of fancying chaps?
No, I'm courageous. If I believe in something, then I believe in it fully. I have worked... Well, I worked with one chap once, many, many years ago, who had 5 children and a wife. He went out to gay clubs every night, and I asked one of his mates, I said, what is he doing? He said, he's trying to prove something, but we don't know what he's trying to prove. And another chap I knew was married, had a daughter and a wife, and was gay. And he ended up killing himself because his wife said, look, either you stay here or you go and I'll take you to the cleaners. And he killed himself. And that is tragic.
Cliff, I appreciate your call. Thank you. I bet it's more common, than we think. Straight bloke, in inverted commas, married, got kids, but, is fantasising over blokes as well. Well, how did Cliff phrase it? Liking chaps. It's a great way. 03453 009956. Edgar's in Wolverhampton. Morning, Edgar.
Good morning, Adrian.
Edgar, what would you like to say? It's Ian, by the way, but what would you like to say?
Pardon?
It's Ian.
Oh, right, Ian. Okay. Well, I'd say to Ian, this guy has just been speaking. He's an absolute idiot. Absolute idiot. Now, look,
which guy's an idiot?
The last one just speaking about if there's a God and all that kind of rubbish, you
don't think God was bisexual? Or gay?
Look, we are not here to talk about the sexuality of God, because God is infinite, okay? God is eternal. So therefore, this is ignorancy when talking about whether God was gay or that kind of foolishness. I don't go down that road because I know it's just ignorancy, the whole of that story. All right. Now, God made man and woman.
Yes, he made Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve.
Right.
Oh, dear.
It's society that breathing down into the minds of these our young people to say that you're gay. No man was born gay. It's a lifestyle that you choose.
But homosexuality has been noted in all different kinds of animals. You can get gay dogs and gay sheep and gay rabbits. They're not getting it from EastEnders, are they?
No, they got split personalities.
So you think it's a form of mental illness?
Exactly. So it's no good. These people. I mean, it was asked by this vicar this morning if it's sin, and he was fumbling. It is sin. It's an abomination. It's an abomination. And these people who have these kind of mentality, these kind of belief, they want to be sent to one of these islands where that is extinct. They need to be...
Hang on a second, Edgar, You've come on with very strong views. You've called Cliff an idiot, which I think is perhaps a little bit harsh. You're saying homosexuality is an abomination and that all the gays should be sent to an island. I don't know if you're aware of it. Hang on a second, where's my diary? Hang on. Yeah, it's 2014.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Time does not change the word of God, my beloved. Doesn't matter how long. And that's where people are getting it wrong. The word
have you got kids, Edgar?
Say?
Have you got kids?
Yeah.
Now, supposing one of them came up to you, are they boys or girls?
I've got 2 boys, I've got 1 girl.
OK, suppose one of them come up to you and said, Dad, I'm gay. I'm a lesbian. What would you do? Would you kick them out?
Well,
would you send them to an island?
The sin, what I am after, is to destroy the sin that propels somebody to behave that way. The person
to fall in love with someone?
Eh?
All they're doing is falling in love with someone.
No, you can't. No. That is taking it out of context. As I said to you again...
Edgar, let me interrupt. I'm really sorry. It's 10:45. I've got to do the travel, but I want to talk to you a bit longer. Stay there, please, sir.
Okay.
Fascinating stuff. You'll want to have your say. 03453 009956. But before that, let's get the travel. Here's Liz Saul. Liz.
Thank you very much, Ian. Good morning to Norton Keynes, where on the A5 we're getting reports of an accident on the Watling Street stretch just by Turf Island around Walsall Road. Police tell us they are on the way to the scene. It's heavy going as you head in and out of Birmingham, particularly around Bordsley Circus currently, that bit of the A45, and through Great Bars, heavy on Queslett Road, approaching the A34 at the Scott Arms traffic lights. It's struggling towards the Burnt Tree traffic lights again in the Dudley area along the A461 and the junction with Tividale Road and New Birmingham Road. If you can update us, call BBC WM 95.6 Travel 08453 002288.
The voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
Unwanted Christmas presents, they generally go to the charity shop.
This is when you needed your Noel Edmonds swap shop, weren't it, on a Saturday morning?
Pete Morgan. Paul Franks.
Is it a Happy New Year for rail commuters?
It's happier than it would have been.
You know, if you're on a long-haul flight and you're sitting next to a stink bomb, would you mind off if you just lifted your arm up? That's better.
Danny Kelly. Caroline Martin.
Adrian Goldberg. We let you in through the working class door for a minute. I'm going to kick you out now. I'm the working class bouncer. Derek, out.
When you went through the IVF, were there people around you that thought that you were just selfish?
Somebody once said to me, how does your daughter feel about having an older mother? She said, you're my mummy and I love you.
The voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
BBC WM
95.6.
Right, I'm enjoying this morning. Morning, this is Ian Lee, BBC WM 95.6. Talked about lots this morning, school holidays, trusting the police. Right now, we're talking about can you stop being gay? OK, 2 protest meetings being held this weekend against a private member's bill aiming to ban the controversial practice of gay conversion or gay cure therapy. 03453 009956. I've got Edgar on the line. Edgar has called in. As he rightly pointed out, we're not here to discuss the sexuality of God. He thinks being gay is an abomination. He thinks that they should all be sent to an island. And Edgar, I was presenting you with the situation. Let's imagine one of your sons turns up and says, Dad, got some news. I've fallen in love. His name's Steve. What would you do?
He needs to be treated mentally.
What would you say to him?
Well, he wouldn't bring that to me because he knows, of course, that we don't go down that road. And I says, what has causes people to do these things? What did you say your name was again?
Ian.
Ian, what has causes people to behave these kinds of ways? It's sin in the life of an individual. And guess what, Ian? In every human being, I mean, this guy talked about, we are made in the image of God. So we are. But you see, what he don't understand the scripture a single bit. It is mean that in every human being there is a part in that individual that is calling out for God. And this is why these guys go down this road of sodomy. Because there's something...
Just watch your language. We've got young ears listening, so we know what they get up to. We don't need to go into detail.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Because we are made in the image of God, there's a part that is in every human being that...
Well, then, God, if we are made in the image of God, then surely God is a little bit gay.
No. No, you see, that's why he gives us free mind, Ian. He gives us free mind to choose what we want to do,
Edgar, what I don't get, okay, is what is wrong. The Bible and Christianity, as far as I can tell, is about love. That's what it all boils down to, is love. What is wrong with two people falling in love with each other?
Well, you see, again, you're getting the whole thing twisted up, Ian.
Well, no, I'm not. What's wrong with two people falling in love with each other?
He hates sin, he loves the humanity, and this is why repentance is preached, that a man can change from wrong to right. No, these people have never gone to Sodom. I've been to Sodom, Ian, and I'm telling you this. From the day God cursed Sodom, it's been barren and unfruitful. Okay? Two men cannot procreate.
Edgar, stay there a second, because I know Kev's in King's Heath. Kev, you want to talk to Edgar, do you?
Yes, if I can, please, yeah.
Away you go. Go on.
Edgar, I'm a heterosexual, God-fearing male. When you came on, you said, I won't put words in your mouth, but I think you said these people should be sent to an island, talking about gay people.
Mm-hmm.
You were asked the question if your daughter came home, then we had a break. Then you were asked the question if one of your sons came home and said, Dad, I'm in love, his name's Steve. You said he should be mentally treated. So all the rest of the gays can go to an island, but your family should be mentally treated.
No.
Help you, my old friend. God help you. And then you come on and tell us there's only one God and that we've all got opinions. In your view, there is only one God, and that's fine. God help you, my friend.
No, you see, you're getting annoyed. That's
well, why wouldn't I get annoyed, Edgar? You want your son mentally treated, but any other gay people, you want to send them to an island. God help you, my friend. God help you.
If my sons fail to see the truth, yes, let it go to the island as well. No problem. Because it's a disease, as I said to you, and it needs to be treated. Because
by sending them to an island, unless it's your son. So be careful what you wish for, Edgar. Be careful what you wish for, my friend. God help you.
Well, okay. I mean, that is good, because it's only God can help us, and he needs to help you, and you need to seek for his help.
Well,
because
apparently, mental treatment can help your son, but God has to send everybody else, or you have to send
Hang on a second.
Let
Let me come in. Listen, the mental health treatment can do wonders. It can help depression. It can stop people being suicidal. Well, hang on. Kev, hang on a second. Hang on a second. Mental health treatment can help depression. It can help suicidal people. It can help schizophrenia. What kind of treatment, Edgar, do you think gays should have? Is it chemical? Should they be castrated? Is it talking therapy? What kind of treatment would help them, do you think?
They need the love of God in their hearts.
That's not mental health treatment, though, is it?
No, mental. But, of course, what the mental... Because, you see, if the mental, it's only God who have the answers for every situation. Or
a psychiatrist.
Eh?
They used to give ECT to homosexuals in the 50s, electroconvulsive therapy, where they would pass a huge electric current through their heads. Do you think we should return to that?
No, I am not virgin for that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying sin is in the life of those individuals, and because of sin, the Bible says where iniquity abound, the love of God becomes wax old. Therefore, these people want to be woken up to reality, to let them know that no man was born gay. It's a sin, it's a disease, and it needs God in their life. And if they are not willing...
Edgar, should they be punished?
No, I'm not on about punishment, because the individual is good. It's the behavior of the person, Ian, that needs to be dealt with. Yeah. And
I've got gay friends.
Pardon?
I've got gay friends. Mm-hmm. Am I in danger of being contaminated?
No. I'm not.
So they won't rub off on me?
No. Unless you have got that mentality yourself.
Okay. Are gay people God's children?
Every individual is God's children, but then there are some disobedient children, there are some obedient children, Ian.
Let me bring Vince in Selly Oak into this. Morning, Vince.
Hello, Ian. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm shocked, if I'm honest. Vince, you're through to me and Edgar. What would you like to say?
Well, I'm a Christian, not gay, but what Edgar should realise is this, that we're all God's children, we're all human beings, and should be treated as such. And if Edgar, with the views Edgar's got, he should study history back to the Holocaust and look what the Nazis did to gay people. With views like his, he should go on a Holocaust tour. The one I went on 2 years ago. It may wake his eyes up and change his mind.
Edgar, the gays have been...
I'm sick and tired of people coming on air and quoting religion all the time when it comes to this subject. Every single time this comes up, you've got them coming out quoting this, quoting that, and quoting that from the Bible. End of story. how often do they attend church? Let them get on and learn to get on with gay people, like the rest of us do in society.
Edgar, your reaction?
I want to tell him frustrate as it is, there is no such thing as a gay Christian. There is absolute rubbish. He needs repentance. He needs the love of God in his heart. You know, you need the love of God in your heart. There's no such thing as gay Christian. Take that back to the
I don't need the love of God in my heart. I've got love in my heart.
You've got the devil in your life. That's why you don't need the love of God. And it's only the love of God can change your mentality, change your physical behavior. You need repentance, and you need to see Jesus.
You're saying that Vince needs to get love in his heart. I'm not hearing much love from you this morning.
No, I told you, you love the individual, you hate the sin.
Why does it matter what two blokes or two women get up to in their bedroom to you? Why does it matter to you?
It doesn't matter to me, to be honest, but I'm saying these people are preaching this an abominable behavior and corrupting the lives of young children. They're even going into schools telling children about their sexual urges. This is hypocrisy. This is
Where is this? Where's this happening? Where are gays going into schools and telling young children about their sexual urges? I've missed that one.
No, I'm not saying the gays go into school. I'm saying you have children in education and people now even telling children about their sexual behavior.
Who is teaching children about sexual urges?
Pardon?
Where did you read this about young children being...
on the news. I heard that on this program a few months ago.
What, people are going into schools to talk to young children about their sexual urges?
Yes.
I'd be very surprised if that was actually happening.
Somewhere, unless the media is talking.
So why do you think people become gay, Edgar? Are they born with it? Do they catch it? Is it because they've seen it on EastEnders? What is it?
It's publicity, most of it all, right?
Yeah.
The media talks so much about it. I've got a financial reward at the end of the day, if you like, because the government has passed that now. What? Because two men can never have a child, so therefore...
there's a financial reward for it?
Pardon?
There's a financial reward for being gay?
Yes.
How much do they get for... What's the going rate for a gay these days?
The ladies now that are, expectant mothers, they get time off from work, they get a payout, don't they? So therefore, when the nation is being mind-trained, right, now that more people are going that way...
But I don't understand how they're trained to be gay. Where?
No, because... I'm saying, Ian.
Yes.
I'm saying, Ian, when you say something long enough, it catches on. So the children are in school now, okay? Yeah. And if they are told that is a way of life, the government make it legal for that to happen. So a lot of our children that is not even yet born is going to be having that mentality. So therefore, society is going to spread that germs around. It's a mindset. It's a way you were born. So you're going to have less married people, man and woman.
Well, the gays can get married now, Edgar. That's good news, isn't it?
Pardon?
Gays can get married now.
But they can't have a child, can they?
They can adopt.
No, but who? When you adopt a child, who brings the child? The man?
Sometimes. Depends. Elton John's doing a cracking job with his kids.
Yeah, I'm not about bringing the child up. I mean, who produces the child?
20 seconds, Edgar. I've just got a quick email from Dave. Dave says, if Edgar is so certain that turning to God will cure gays, how does he explain the tendencies of so many convicted priests?
Because they're not converted. It's a profession. It's a job. They go to college and learn. Their hearts are not changed. Their life remain in a tatters. And so they profess. They are not. They are just pretenders. They are
Edgar,
not...
I've got to let you go, mate. I appreciate your call. Thank you. 03453. That's okay. You've certainly educated us, I think. Wow, I'm shocked. Are you? Or are you sitting at home nodding and agreeing? 03453 009956. Can you stop being gay? Well, Edgar thinks that if you are gay, you're an abomination and you should be sent to an island. Let's be honest. Be a cracking island to go to for your holidays, wouldn't it? Wonderful stuff. Coming up to 11 o'clock, let's get the news.
The voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
BBC WM 95.6.
It's 11 o'clock exactly. Let's get the news now. Here's Rebecca Dixon.
Police are speaking to the mother of a 3-year-old boy who went missing from his home in Edinburgh on Thursday. The body of a young child, believed to be the missing Mikhail Kula, was discovered in Fife overnight. Our reporter Andrew Anderson has more.
Police are standing guard outside a small bungalow in Kirkcaldy in Fife. It's understood Mikhail Kula lived here with his mother and her other children until 18 months ago. The house belongs to a relative. A small wooded area close to the bungalow has also been cordoned off. Police strongly believe the body they found in Fife is that of Mikhail Kula. They've detained his mother, Rose Deep. Forensic teams are expected to begin their investigations at the house later.
In other news, the Police and Crime Commissioner for the West Midlands says they're trying to engage with minority communities after claims people are not calling the police when serious crimes are committed. The head of the Police Standards Watchdog, Tom Windsor, says communities in parts of the Midlands are dishing out their own punishments. But Bob Jones has told Iain Lee on BBC WM that's not true in Birmingham and the Black Country.
The biggest problem we have with underreporting in deprived inner city areas is, of course, where they can't afford the insurance, it's not perceived to be worthwhile doing the reporting. But we have been making considerable progress about that, and particularly in terms of serious issues. As I say, there is more police activity in those areas than any other area in the community.
A man from Birmingham has been released on bail after he was arrested on suspicion of attending a terrorist training camp in Syria. The 21-year-old from Sheldon was stopped by police officers from the West Midlands when he arrived on a flight from Istanbul to Gatwick yesterday afternoon. This case is not connected to the two men from Handsworth who were charged with terrorism offences last night. The man in charge of the high-speed rail project says it will bring prosperity to the West Midlands. Sir David Higgins says HS2 will spread wealth away from the capital.
Business is too concentrated in London. You need to distribute that wealth further north. So when we have less than 40 minutes from Birmingham International through to York, those connections are going to transform how this not only relates to London, but it'll transform how the north talks to each other.
People campaigning against HS2 claim the £43 billion line is a waste of money which will devalue their homes. West Bromwich Albion has been issued with an ultimatum by its sponsors Zoopla to sack Nicholas Anelka or lose their £3 million sponsorship deal. According to reports in a magazine, the property website is said to be unhappy about the controversial Quinnell gesture last month at West Ham. Anelka is currently under investigation by the FA. The club says it won't be making a comment until the investigation has finished. And Andy Murray is through to the fourth round of the Australian Open after a straight sets win over Feliciano Lopez. Murray won the first set on a tie-break before easing through to the next two, 6-4, 6-2 in 2 hours 15 minutes in Melbourne. The British number one now will play French qualifier Stéphane Robert. A look at the weather then, and cloudy and breezy today. Some light rain around all day. Highs of 9 degrees Celsius, 48 degrees Fahrenheit tonight. That rain will continue into the evening, feeling frosty and cold as well, though, with lows of -1 degrees Celsius, 30 degrees Fahrenheit. BBC WM 95.6 News. There's more online at bbc.co.uk/WM.
The Voice. The Voice.
The Voice.
The Voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
They have kids and they want somebody else to keep them.
Social services shouldn't exist. I know quite a few people that have had pay cuts in their wages just to hang on to their job.
Iain Lee, Saturdays
9 till 12.
BBC WM 95.6.
Good morning. This is Iain Lee, BBC WM 95.6. It looks like I'm going to make the full 3 hours. What a busy show we've had. You can give me a call about any of the things that we've been talking about so far. Do you trust the police? Taking your kids out of school? The thing that really got people going in the last hour is, can you stop being gay? Edgar is called in, rather old-fashioned Christian. I'm sure there are still several out there, not knocking his beliefs, although some might consider them to be bigoted. He thinks gays are an abomination, they are sinful, and the reason people are gay is because it's promoted so much. All the gays should be sent to an island. What a party that would be. What are your thoughts? Can you stop being gay? We're talking about that, but also this hour, psychics. Do you believe in them? Do you buy into that stuff? Can you talk to dead people? Can you predict the future? I'm not a believer. I would love to be, but I'm not. If you've got personal experience, give me a call. And also, big story, West Bromwich Albion has reported to have been issued an ultimatum by its sponsors, Zoopla. We'll find out more. If you want to give me a call, you can do. The phone number, 03453 00 9956.
Have your say. Across the West Midlands, call
03453
00 9956.
BBC WM 95.6.
Ah, dear, oh dear, oh dear. I think we're all recovering, aren't we, after Edgar's rant. We'll be talking about the West Bromwich Albion story a little bit later on, and I do want to squeeze in this hour psychics. I love psychics. I just don't believe in them. I just don't buy it in the slightest. You can talk to dead people. Really? You can predict the future? What? It would be nice. It would be lovely. But it doesn't work, does it? Or maybe you've got experience to the contrary. If you have, 03453 00 9956. Give me a call and let me know your experiences, please. Would love to hear them. Wouldn't it be great? My dad died last year. Wouldn't it be great if I could sit in a room with a middle-aged woman and have a conversation through her with my dad? Oh, that would be fantastic. I would love it. But unfortunately, it can't happen. 03453 00 9956. We'll talk about West Brom in a second. But before that, on the subject of can you cure people, very quickly, we've got an email from Joe. Ian, can I please go to this island that Edgar wants? Thousands of the most brilliant people in the world are gay or bi. We'd have a great economy, great inventions, and it would be an island of work, peace, love, with relaxing times and little or no hatred. Well hang on a second, Joe. I've seen, gay people can be nasty as well as straight people. People like Edgar would have to have a visa to visit. My goodness, what a pathetic, close-minded individual he was. Well, he's got his views. Marie's on the line. Good morning, Marie.
Good morning.
Marie, what would you like to say?
Well, after listening to Edgar, I've forgotten what I was going to say, to be honest.
For a second, I thought he was having a laugh, but I was very surprised by his slightly old-fashioned, bigoted views.
He's on every week. I look forward to him.
No, I've heard him. I've heard him a few times. He's got his opinions. But what do you make of what he says? That people are gay because it's all through the media, and we should send them to an island. It's nonsense, isn't it?
Well, he's an old-fashioned Christian, isn't he? And I respect his views, but it's nonsense. I think the point that I was making was nobody has ever questioned me about my heterosexuality. Nobody's ever asked me, why do I fancy a man? Why do I want to get married to him? Nobody ever asks me that. But gay people are questioned all the time about their reasons, why it's happened. It's pathetic. It's human nature. You're either one or the other, or both.
And that's the thing, isn't it? There are gay dogs, there are gay sheep, there are gay ducks. Homosexuality, if it wasn't prevalent within the animal kingdom, we'd have a slightly different attitude towards it, perhaps. But it is. It happens amongst animals. So it's got to be a natural instinct.
We're the highest form of animal. So it's just there. I wouldn't question anybody. And as for him saying that people go in and promote it in school, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I can't quite believe it. Thank you very much for that, Marie. Thank you for waiting. I can't quite believe that there are, maybe I've missed a big story, that there are people going into schools to talk to young children about their sexual urges. I don't know. The slightly worrying thing is, we're saying there that Edgar's an old-fashioned Christian. I think there are still a surprising number of Christians who think like that and who believe that. Well, if it's in the Bible, it's technically not quite. Man shall not lie with man. That's it. That's it. If it's in the Bible, people are going to buy into it, aren't they? 03453 00 99 56.
Iain Lee.
On BBC WM 95.6.
The voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
Now, dearie me, this is an incredible story that I know you're going to want to have your say on. We're here until midday, so you've got another 50-odd minutes or so if you want to give me a call. West Bromwich Albion has reportedly been issued an ultimatum by its sponsors, Zoopla. Sack Nicholas Anelka or lose their £3 million sponsorship. The property website, Zoopla, is said to be unhappy about the controversial Quinnell gesture last month towards West Ham. Anelka is currently under investigation by the FA. Now, if you've not heard of this gesture, it's a Quinnell gesture. It's described as an inverted Z Kyle. You know, I'm sat in the studio and I'm doing that now. Where you raise your arm up to Z Kyle. It's kind of an inverted one of those where you point down to the ground and you hold your other hand over your shoulder. In some areas, it's seen as an act of defiance. In a lot of areas, it's seen as an anti-Semitic gesture. West Bromwich Albion has said they will be making no further comment until the Football Association has concluded its investigation and the club its own internal inquiry into the matter. Well, we can get a word with our Baggies reporter, Rob Gurney. Morning, Rob.
Hello, Ian.
How did this issue get blown up in the first place? What happened?
Well, Nicholas Anelka scored the first of 2 goals in a 3-3 draw at West Ham on December the 28th, and that's when he made the gesture. He immediately denied being racist or anti-Semitic. He called the gesture one of support for his friend, the French comedian Dieudonné, an anti-establishment gesture. But he's a very controversial figure in France. The FA launched an investigation. It's still going on. An announcement's expected on Monday, but the fact that West Brom are playing Everton on Monday may well delay any announcement. They've been taking soundings from lots of different people in lots of different walks of life, as far as I'm aware, both here and in France. The Jewish community as well have been involved in the investigation. And as I say, they're due to make an announcement on Monday, but that may well be delayed in the event that West Brom are playing Everton at the Hawthorns on Monday.
The French comedian you mentioned, he's the one who's apparently originated this gesture. He says it's anti-Zionist, not anti-Semitic. There is a slight difference. It does seem odd, though, that the club are effectively being held to ransom here, aren't they?
Yes, I mean, if this report from Marketing Week is true and Zoopla are threatening to pull the plug, then that does have quite serious implications for the football club, although in the same report it does indicate that if they do carry out this threat, then they have got somebody else waiting in the wings to take over as shirt sponsors. So it's an embarrassing issue as far as the club is concerned, but in terms of the financial impact that it will have, if it's true that they have got somebody else lined up, that impact will be fairly minimal, I would think.
How do you see this panning out? What's going to happen here, Rob?
Well, to put it into context as well, it's Pepe Mel's first match as head coach of West Bromwich Albion on Monday as well against Everton. He's had the past week training with the players. He'll be picking his first team. Whether Nicholas Anelka would or will be in that first team, we wait to see. I'm not sure whether, as a diplomatic move, he may well leave Anelka out. Whether he'll be under instructions to do that, I'm not so sure that he will be, because West Bromwich Albion have been very defiant from when this the issue first blew up at the end of December, to say that they won't be dictated to on team selection. Nicholas Anelka is still available for selection while the FA concludes its investigation. That investigation still to be finalised, but it will be very interesting indeed to see whether Anelka does make the team against Everton at the Hawthorns on Monday night, and if he does, what the consequences of that will be regarding the Zoopla sponsorship deal.
And Rob, listen, I know very little about football. I've managed to bluff my way through this entire conversation, so thank you for holding my hand. I know that Tottenham has a huge Jewish supportership. Is West Ham got that same kind of Jewish connection?
West Brom, well, they've had
it was West Ham they were playing, wasn't it?
That's right. Yes, but he plays for West Brom. I'm not so sure that all clubs have a large or to a certain extent a multicultural, multiracial supporter base. West Bromwich Albion are one of the forerunners of that. They had obviously Brendan Batson, Cyril Regis, and Laurie Cunningham play for them in the late 70s, and they were trailblazers in terms of trying to break down racist barriers in the 1970s when players were being abused racially across the country at that stage. So West Bromwich Albion have always had a very solid anti-racism stance, and so I think that I know a lot of their supporters at the time were very offended by the gesture that Nicholas Anelka made. But as I say, the FA has yet to conclude its investigation, and we shall see what happens when it eventually does.
Rob, I appreciate your time this morning. Thank you very much indeed.
Okay.
It's our Baggies reporter, Rob Gurney. If you want to have your say on that, 03453 009956. This is the point I was making, is that he was doing the gesture towards... that it could be construed as being pointed towards West Ham fans. So that's the point I was getting at. Right, it's 11:15. It's time to get the latest travel news now. Here's Liz Saul.
Thank you very much, Ian. As you make your way on the main routes around Birmingham and the Black Country, generally not looking too bad. A bit busy through Handsworth on Soho Road and in and out of Birmingham through Kings Heath along the High Street, the A435. Hagley Road is a bit congested again as you head inbound towards Five Ways Ireland. Again, just seems to be volume of traffic. Better news on the A5 around Norton Keynes at Turf Island. Police tell us that accident has been cleared and it's running smoothly through there now. Not too bad on Quedslet Road currently by the A34 in Great Bar, and round Bawdsley Circus is generally behaving itself as well. Just be mindful, Birmingham City are at home this afternoon, 3 o'clock kick-off at St Andrews, so expect delays in about an hour or so's time on Coventry Road, Small Heath Highway, and obviously matchday restrictions coming into place. And as you make your way onto the motorways, they're all looking okay so far. And if you can update us, call BBC WM 95.6 Travel 08453 002288.
We're talking to Victor from Redditch. You are an innocent man who has been wronged by the system.
I can't even open a bank account with the few pounds that I have because all my identification is out of date.
Mornings with Adrian Goldberg.
He's just been telling me he spent his first Christmas at Liberty for 17 years on his own.
Hello.
Hello, Deborah. You, I think, represent a housing association, is that right?
Basically, we put vulnerable people into living accommodation.
I think that's a very generous offer. I wish to thank her for calling in.
It's a pleasure. I wish him all the best. Thank you. Bye-bye.
I'm so touched by that. Deborah's just picking up the phone and offering help.
Adrian Goldberg.
Monday to Friday.
9 till 12.
On BBC WM 95.6.
I owe Adrian Goldberg my life. Almost literally. If you missed last week's show, well, you didn't miss much of me. I lasted 45 minutes and I literally collapsed on the studio floor with a migraine. Now, there are some people go, oh, you had a bad headache? No, I didn't. I wanted to die. It was awful. If you ever suffer with a migraine, it is awful. Dearie me. And Adrian, how nice. Adrian was in the building and he stepped up to the plate and he did the rest of the show for me. So, Adrian Goldberg, thank you, sir. I owe you lunch or a drink. 03453 009956. We'll be talking psychics in a bit. I'm keen to know your psychic stories. I would so love to buy into them. I just can't. 03453 009956. About 20 minutes ago, we were speaking to Edgar, 25 minutes ago. He thinks that gays are an abomination. They should all be sent to an island and they need mental treatment. This is after we're asking, can you stop being gay? Derek's in Droitwich. Morning, Derek.
Morning.
What would you like to say?
That Edgar, he's quoting the Bible. I'm an atheist, by the way, so it don't fall on me. But if he looks back at homosexuality, it was way before Christ, and then there'd be a bit of a problem if you do read the Bible. There's a guy walking around with 12 blokes with no women. That'd raise a question, I think, wouldn't he?
It could be perceived as a little bit suspicious, yes, in those circumstances. Were you surprised? I know Edgar's a regular, and we've all heard him, but are you surprised that people out there still have those old-fashioned views?
Well, when I look at it, it seems that this is just my slant on it. I might be wrong on this one. Is that the homosexuals have changed the word to gays to make it more softer. It's always been there, but the way they advertise it, it seems to be way out of proportion to me.
How do they advertise gays?
Well, let's say once I was at a conference, and I sat there, and we just merged with another body of people.
Where's this going?
And
yeah.
I come from an engineering background.
Yes.
They come from most other backgrounds, and the guys were getting up and stating that they were coming out. And I looked at them. I thought, well, I ain't here for this. I'm here for wages and conditions. And basically, I just couldn't get it. Plus, they have these.
Are you sure you were in the right place, Derek? You're in a conference where you're merging bodies, and suddenly loads of people stand up and say, "Hello, my name's Tony. I'm gay."
I was in the right place, all right. I was, because a guy said, when he said to me, there was a guy dressed up, I don't know what you call him, like a transvestite, that's it. He said he was coming out, and I said to him, well, if he'd done it in front of me, I'd have been on the floor laughing. And he said, oh, you can't do that. I said, I couldn't help myself, I said, but that's it, they were
yes.
I mean, this, I don't want to go on about this. I'd rather go on your subject as regards homosexuality, and it was there way before, you can tell Edgar, way before Christ, or when this guy was supposed to be walking the earth.
Derek, I appreciate your time this morning. I'm not. Maybe I missed something. Maybe I blinked for a second and I missed something. He's at a conference where they're all merging bodies and transvestites are standing up saying they're gay. I go to the wrong kind of meetings. The meetings I go to are dead dull compared to that. 03453 009956. Part of what Derek was saying there, and this seems to be the thrust, if you'll pardon the term, of a lot of what Derek and what Edgar have been saying, is the way that gays are promote themselves. Now, I don't quite know what that means. Is it that they're just more open now? You quite often see gay men walking down the street holding hands. That's nice, isn't it? My mum would probably not like to see that. Disgusted? Possibly too strong a word. It would make her uncomfortable. She's in her 60s, from a different generation. So I see two blokes walking down the street. Wonderful, fantastic, well done. Haven't things come on a long way? But is it the way that gays are promoted, advertised? None of these words seem right to me. I'm struggling to find the word that sits comfortably with me. Give me a call. Help me. I'm here until 12 o'clock. I need your help getting my head around this one. I'm trying to understand why people could object to two people being in love. Man, woman, 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 man, man. They're in love. That's it, isn't it? 03453 009956. This is BBC WM 95.6.
Iain Lee
on BBC WM
95.6, the voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
Excuse my fat fingers. I'm reaching for buttons and keys, and I'm all over the shop. I do apologise. Now, here's something, and I know you'll have stories on this. Can people really be psychic? Have you ever visited a psychic or had a psychic moment? Maybe your mum died, your sister died, your child died, and to get comfort, you went and saw a psychic, maybe one-on-one. Maybe it was a spiritualist church. Maybe you went to one of those big shows in a theatre. Did it work? In as much as, A, did it comfort you? And B, did you talk to people beyond the grave? You always see these psychics. It's always, right, does anybody here know a man with a hat. That's me, that's Dad! Ah, yes, it's your dad. 03453 009956. One of the theories is that people's brains are not given time to process the information they see. That psychic powers don't exist. It's all a trick of the brain, giving people a vague sense of change that they can't fully explain. We can speak now to spiritualist Sandra Mosses, who's written a book called Vanquishing Ghosts and Demons. Good morning. Sandra, have I got your name right?
Yes, you have. Yes, you have. Thank you.
Sandra, nice to talk to you this morning. It's all a load of nonsense, isn't it?
No.
Tell me when you first realised you were psychic.
It's been a long time ago now. One of the first abilities that people tend to develop is often this knowing, this inner knowing, and knowing things before events, sensing that somebody's going to call you before they call you, thinking of the person before the phone rings. That's often people's starting point. I mean, psychic covers a multitude. You know, whether we're talking about remote viewing by the CIA, whether we're talking about mediumistic skills, where you're talking to the side, women's intuition. You know, the area is so vast.
But it is... I've seen Uri Geller bending a spoon in front of my eyes. Now, there are some people that think that's psychic. I saw it. I couldn't explain it. It looked like he was bending a spoon just by touching it. But that's a trick, isn't it?
No, I don't think it is. What he's doing is using energy, and he's concentrating that energy. He's got a very, very unusual gift that he's learned to get that energy, pulling that universal energy, and to concentrate it, and to be able to change the makeup in the metal, isn't it? That's what he does.
But magicians can do that. There are tricks of doing this. There are tricks of people working out what number you're going to say. And you know, Derren Brown is not psychic. He's a magician in the Paul Daniels sense of the word.
Well, I think in some ways I would think that does Derren Brown know that he's got a little bit of a psychic gift and he just denies it. But you're absolutely right. You know, there are things, you know, you can look at people, there's guesswork, people study people's faces, don't they? You can look at the law of probability and say, well, you know, that if I throw a dice, the law is that this dice is going to come out and so and so. There are lots of others, you know, that there are non-psychic abilities that in some ways bridge across into what could be classed as psychic, but they aren't.
03453 009956. I'd love to get your stories on this morning, dear listener. I mean, what can you do, Sandra? Can you speak to my relatives? How does that work?
Well, I can, yes. I mean, that's where I am. I'm a medium. I'm a platform. I work for the Spiritist movement. And I was listening to what you're saying, that people say, I've got a man here with a hat. A good medium should be able to say to you, your granddad is standing alongside you. You've also got a nan in the spirit world. And they should be able to describe that person. You should be able to go directly to the person and tell them who is on the other side and what they look like. And that is evidence.
Can you do it now? Does it work over the phone?
It does work over the phone, but I'm certainly not tuned in, and I certainly wasn't going to expect this. And I think last time I did this for you guys, you insinuated I'd gone online and looked you up.
Oh, I would never insinuate such a thing.
Okay. I mean, I don't know anything about you. I don't know anything about what you look like, but I know that you have a granddad in the spirit world with you.
No, I'm good. Let me play the devil's advocate here for a second. Yes.
Yes.
But that's pretty obvious, isn't it? That it's pretty likely I'd have a granddad in spirit world.
Why?
Well, I'm a gentleman of a certain age. If I'm doing,
how old you are. I've never met you. I haven't looked you up, so I don't know.
I know, and I believe you.
Yeah, that's just what I'm looking at. And I didn't feel I'd got father in the spirit world. I wasn't quite sure whether I'd got father or whether I'd got father's father standing there alongside you.
Okay, that's possible. Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you. And
What's his name?
Either you or him would have had a sweet tooth because he's given you a cake. It's very, very difficult to be able to... mediumship is about being passive. They give you what they want to transmit. They've got a message that they want to get across to you. It's not a case of you saying, well, tell me who you are. Yeah. I mean, you wouldn't do that. That's rude, actually, isn't it? If I say, oh, come on, I'll give you a name, then who are you? Mediumship is about being passive and allowing that spirit to come through and give the message to that person. Message is personal to the person, therefore the person. The showmanship, it's not what it's about. It's about you walking away with the message and thinking, that was my granddad. Yeah, that was my granddad, and so it's very, very hard. You can't, I wouldn't do it in life. You wouldn't do it in death. So a billion aim. Yeah, you have to allow the person to build up and build their energy and build the strength up. I can't tell you, he looks like quite a smart-looking gentleman. He's got a V-neck jumper on here, and he's also mentioning his nose. So I think I would have noticed his nose. I'm not saying it's huge, but I would have noticed his nose. And you'll also understand somebody who had very bushy eyebrows.
Okay.
How is that?
Well, you could be describing any number of gentlemen who've passed over, though, couldn't you? I know you're a good sport, and I put you on the spot there, Sandra, and I appreciate that, and I hope you don't mind me playing devil's advocate. It's kind of what I have to do.
No, I don't. No, I don't at all, yes.
That description sounded like both of my granddads who have passed over, but I imagine there'll be lots of... Yes.
One granddad was taller than the other. One would have carried more weight. One would have had darker eyebrows. One would have had darker eyebrows than the other. And one has, I'm not sure they've got a missing tooth on the one, but one certainly got a little bit of weight. Certainly got a little bit of weight around the middle. They're very different, your two granddads. They are chalk and cheese in terms of personalities.
They were both quite slim.
Yeah. The one is showing me, well, I hope he's not showing me that you've put a little bit of weight on, but he's showing me would just carry a little bit of weight around the middle. One of them at one time would have had a little bit of weight around the middle, and I'm going to say you go back and look through those photo albums. Not towards the end, they would have lost the weight, but one of them would have put a little bit of weight on. And he's given me a ball for you, so I know that you would have loved ball games.
Sandra, what kind of people come to you, and what are they hoping to get out of it?
And usually the people that come to me are the people that have lost somebody. They've lost somebody. And, until you lose somebody really close to you, the spirit world is not a thing we're bothered about. The other side, we don't consider it. We only consider it when we lose something from our life and we think there's got to be more to life than this. And they just want reassurance that their loved one is okay, that they made it through that doorway. They're okay and they're looking over them. And that's what they want. And a medium should be able to say to them, I have your father here. I can describe what he looks like and I can give you a message, and that's what mediumship is about.
When you hear about research like this that comes out that says it's proven that psychic powers don't exist, it's all a trick of the brain, it's us wanting to believe, what's your reaction?
My reaction is a bit of sadness, because that research, it was of 10 people that they used, and they weren't testing psychic ability, they were testing you to see if you could see what was missing from the picture. But there's going to be somebody out there now, today, who's lost somebody, yeah, and they're going to be just about coping with life, barely able to go forward, and that is what's going to give them the strength to go on, and that's what mediumship is about, that's what it should be about, yeah. So I look at it and I'm thinking, you're going to dash somebody's dreams out there. You're going to, somebody's going to make life a little bit more difficult to walk if they don't have that hope.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because there could be some people who say that you're exploiting the vulnerable. Not you personally, but people in your profession are exploiting the vulnerable.
Well, most of mine is voluntary work for the Spiritualist Church.
Right.
If I earn £15 driving a 100-mile round trip to Rugby and I'm out for 4 hours, if they think that's exploiting, then people do come to me for readings. Yeah, I'm relatively cheap because I've always tried to make it affordable, and if somebody hasn't got any money, I'll see them in the church. That's why I do churches at least twice a week. I'm out there in the public eye that people can come and see for nothing.
Sandra, I appreciate your time and thank you for being a good sport this morning. Thank you very much indeed. That's spiritualist Sandra Mosses, who's written a book called Vanquishing Ghosts and Demons. Over to you. Your stories, please. I was being polite there. I never like ball games. And the description of an older guy with a little bit of weight, bushy eyebrows, lost a tooth. That's your granddad, isn't it? That's your dad that's passed over. That could apply to pretty much any old boy that's no longer with us. I would love to believe, I would so love to believe, wouldn't it be awesome to go and visit somebody and sit with them and they'll say, right, yeah, I've got your granddad Jock, and he's saying, do you remember when you were 7 and you broke that window but you pretended it was your sister? Well, he says he doesn't mind. He knew it was you all the time and he thought it was funny. Wouldn't it be great to get messages like that? But we don't. Do we? Give me a call with your stories, 03 453 00 9956. Sandra was a very good sport there, and I put her a little bit on the back foot, but I thought it'd be interesting to ask her. Let's speak to Terry. Terry, morning, Terry.
Morning. You've been very, very provocative, aren't you?
I'm doing my best, Terry. It's how I feed my children.
The tone of your voice.
And what do you think? Do you believe in psychics?
Put it this way. Spiritualism is a recognised religion. Just like a Catholic, whatever religion, it's a recognised religion. There are good spiritualist mediums. When I say good, I mean there are some that are better qualified than others. I've been going now for a long, long time, and I've heard some absolutely fantastic stories that people wouldn't believe. It's not cold calling. They don't suddenly say, I'm looking for somebody with a bald head that died 10 years ago, which you say can refer to anybody. Have you heard of Colin Fry?
I have not heard of Colin Fry. No, who's that?
Have you got Sky TV?
Yes, I do.
Go on to the Sixth Sense on Pick TV. It's on 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock. They're recorded programmes. And if you want proof of life after death, which I firmly believe in because I've experienced so many stories and tales, or not tales, that you cannot dispute it. Colin Fry will come out and he'll talk to an audience and he won't start calling, I've got so-and-so here. He will pick on someone, so I'd like to refer to you. And you will give them particular details of what has happened to them, who is trying to contact them. And if the person says, I can't agree with you, he'll say, I don't dispute that, fair enough, but... And then he'll say a little bit more. And the person will suddenly say, now I remember what you're saying there. Yes, that did happen.
How do you know they're not stooges, plants?
How do I know what?
How do you know that they're not his mates?
They're not his mates.
How do you know?
Because it'll tell you at the beginning of the programme.
These are not his mates?
At the end of the programme. No information was given to Colin Fry, the participants of this, before it was recorded. They're not their friends, and they will comment on it afterwards. If you watch that once or twice or a few times, you'll slowly begin to change your opinion. Spiritualism isn't about sitting in a dark room with somebody saying, is there anybody there? It's not that. It is an actual recognised religion.
Have you had an experience yourself, Terry, where you've gone, wow, no one else knew that?
Yes, I have.
Tell me about it.
Well, I've had one or two. It's funny enough you should say that. I had a medium come to me once and said, you were in the army doing national service. Yes, I was. We were overseas. We were in the Far East.
So they were asking you questions?
I was in Hong Kong. Now, how would someone pick up on that? Picking up someone doing national service 50 years ago in Hong Kong doing national service. It'd be very hard to call something like that, wouldn't it?
Well, they would know that a gentleman of a certain age probably did have national service.
In Hong Kong?
Well, they asked you, have you been abroad? I've been sent a video, which I'm unable to listen to at the moment, but it's entitled Colin Fry Exposed. Short video clip about when Colin Fry got caught cheating in a séance.
That he may have done, I'm not sure. All I'm saying is, and remember, you've only got to have one experience to from all to be proved right. All I say is, watch Sixth Sense yourself.
Okay, I'll watch it.
8 o'clock in the morning till 9 or whatever. Watch it a few times and then think about it deeply and come back and tell people what you thought of it.
Terry, I appreciate your call. Thank you. I will make a point of checking that out. I would love to believe in it. But someone saying to Terry, who I'm guessing from his voice is a gentleman of a certain age, oh, you did national service. Well, duh. Yeah. And then asking, did you go abroad? Really? Your experiences with the psychic world, 03453 009956. Honestly, I've put this challenge out. If any psychic can come on the air, I've mentioned this for years, and no one's been able to. If any psychic can come on and tell me something only I and that dead person would know, boom, I will believe you 100%. I will tweet you, I will promote you, I will do whatever I need to do. But no one's been able to do it. Paul's in West Brom. Morning, Paul.
Morning.
Paul, you're training to be a psychic. How does that work?
Yes, well, I actually go to the Spiritualist Church. I was talking to a neighbour a couple of years ago, and I told her that I was actually interested, in the psychic side of things. And she said, you want to come to our Spiritualist Church? So I went, I turned up, and I got involved with the Open Circle. And the Open Circle is where you get a group of people, and they train you to become aware of the spirit world, through the art of meditation and things like that. And yes. I found I have this ability to pick things up. Now, I don't know how it works. I can't explain how it works. But since I've done my training, I have seen spirit in my own house. I have saw my mother-in-law and I have saw my father-in-law, and they have come to me in a mist, a thick mist in the kitchen. Now, my wife was there to witness that. Now, I've got an open mind about all this stuff. I mean, I ain't got a clue how it works, but the spirit world is real. Now, can I just give you a little example?
Go on, please do.
I was in the open circle about a month ago, and this gentleman turns up. He was only a young kid. He was in his mid-20s. And I thought, he's a strange-looking bloke to come to an open circle, because normally young people don't normally turn up, you know. And what we had to do, he had to melt some candle wax into some water. And I had to read the candle wax. What? And I told him, I says, there's a dark-skinned lady here, a very young, attractive, very smartly dressed dark-skinned lady. He said, yes, that's correct. And I said, she's tapping her finger. I said, she's waiting for you to ask a question. And I said, it's marriage. I said, friends and family are also waiting. He said, that's correct. I said, but you've got a lot of doubt. I said, you're a bit worried because you've already been stung twice. He said, I have. He had a failed marriage and a failed relationship. But the main thing was, which surprised me, I said, I can see a little dog. And at this, his eyes filled up. And yeah, he accepted the dog and he went away. And I was later told by a lady who does the healing that he actually came on the Tuesday night for some healing, and he asked her about, do animals come back? And she says yes. And apparently his little dog had died, and he was really, really upset about this dog dying. Well, of course, I picked it up through this candle wax in the water, and to him it was proof. And he was happy. He was over the moon.
I've never heard of reading candle wax in water before. Tea leaves and palms, yes, but candle wax?
It's like reading tea leaves. I mean, you had a lady on the other day who reads bottoms. Can I also say...
Rumpology, yes.
I've actually saw Sandra Mosey's work. Now, she's brilliant. And to be fair to her, I think you put her on the spot there on the radio.
Yeah.
She actually came to my wife's hairdressing shop, and we had a group of people there. We all had readings. We was all over the moon with what she says. Some of the people were crying because they was that relieved, you know, because she'd actually brought their loved ones through. After Sandra had gone, we were talking in the back of the shop, and all of a sudden, two of us, we saw shadows across the floor. And then somebody coughed, and this person who coughed was right next to us. Now, we couldn't see who it was, but the lady I was with, this lady called Lynn, she said, that's my brother Paul, who apparently died of lung cancer.
From a cough?
Yes, there was somebody standing next to us who coughed, as clear as light it was. There was a cough right next to us. Lynn broke down and she said, that's my brother Paul. Now, apparently he had passed with lung cancer. Now,
but Paul, listen, recognising someone from a cough... It's wishful thinking, isn't it? Really, the people that go to these things. Hang on a second. The people that go to these things, they want to believe. They normally go because they're in a lot of pain, because they miss their mum, because they're in a point in their life where they need help. They've got guidance. They want to believe, don't they? So that makes it easier.
Yes, I do. I agree with you. But this cough was right next to us. We all jumped out of our skin. It was a proper loud cough. Where did it come from? Where did that cough come from? There was also shadows on the floor. I mean, there was four of us sitting down in the back room. We saw shadows fly across the floor, and all of a sudden there was this loud cough right next to us. Now, she had spent a lot of time with her brother who was dying in hospital, and she said, that is my brother Paul, and she broke down. Now, okay, yes, it could have been playing on her mind because she was deeply upset. I don't know. But we all heard that. You know,
Here's the thing, Paul. My dad died last year, and quite often when I'm driving along the motorway, I will glimpse over to the car next to me, on the left or on the right, and I'll think, oh, flipping out, it's my dad driving that. That's my dad driving that car. And then I'll go, oh, no, I remember he's dead. It's just another bloke with white hair.
Yeah, no, I mean,
I want to see my dad, so I see him.
Yeah.
It's not a visitation, though, is it? And isn't that what a lot of this the psychic and seance business is? We want to believe. We want to hear from our dead parents and grandparents. So we do.
Yes. Can't argue with you. I mean, I don't understand how it works.
But that wasn't my dad driving that car. That was another fat bloke with white hair.
No, I understand that. I mean that happens to all of us. I mean, I've seen plenty of people that look like my dad. You know what I mean? But when you are in the house, just me and my wife, and all of us, we walk in the kitchen, and there's a thick mist swirling round our heads. And it was, and we opened the back door because we didn't know what it was. I thought, is it steam off the kettle? Well, the kettle went on. I thought, well, it's got to be gas out of the fridge, but of course that's ammonia. You know, you could smell that. And this thick mist was swirling round my wife's head and my head. Our dog we had the dog at the time. The dog was going berserk. We opened the back door. The dog ran out, and this mist went out as well. And I just knew that was my dad.
Paul, I've got to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. Well, I mean, people see things and hear things because they want to see and hear things. So many times I've glimpsed over, I thought, there's Dad in that car next door. Look over again. Of course it's not him. He died. He died last year. Oh, it's fascinating, isn't it? Isn't it just? 03453 00 9956. It's coming up to 1:45. Let's get the travel news now. Here's Liz.
Thank you very much, Ian. As you make your way in and out of Birmingham, through Spark Hill is looking slow currently on the A34 around St John's Road. Busy still in Handsworth on Soho Road, that bit's the A41. And it's still struggling along Hagley Road. Pockets of congestion as you head inbound from junction 3 of the M5 and heading towards Five Ways Island in the centre of the city, approaching Ladywood Middleway. The other end of the A456, passing Hell Zone, is looking rather slow around Grange Road roundabout currently. Not quite sure of the reason for that, but certainly going out of Birmingham and heading towards Hagley is looking rather congested in the Clent Hills direction. It's still quite busy along parts of the A461 in Dudley as you head towards the Scots Green Island in particular. Around Birchley Island has been a bit busy as well, close to junction 2 of the M5, but that seems to be okay so far. As you make your way towards St Andrews, obviously just be aware there's a 3 o'clock kick-off this afternoon, Birmingham City versus Yeovil. So expect delays around Coventry Road, Small Heath Highway, and also the match day restrictions coming into force in the next hour or so. Walsall are at home as well against Brentford, but that's much later on today. Additionally, expect some delays around the NIA this afternoon. The Strictly Come Dancing Live is going on, and the first show is at 2:30. If you can update us, call BBC WM 95.6 Travel 08453 002288.
This is the voice of Birmingham
and the Black Country.
BBC WM
95.6.
Baggies,
Villa, Wolves, Blues,
Tamworth,
Walsall football news.
Starting lineup here inside the Hawthorns.
Yeah, make of this what you will. There's 8 changes.
signing, sackings,
Gossip, rumour.
and exclusive interviews.
Purely because of the money.
Not just the money, there's survival in the league.
Live matches from the ground.
At Villa Park, Rob Gurney.
Nicholas Hellenius has scored.
Commentaries with perfect sound.
Siggett will turn it home. Blues with their first goal.
Every goal and every save.
On FM, not just medium wave.
The Voice.
The Voice.
The Voice of Birmingham and the Black Country. BBC WM 95.6.
The end is in sight, dear listener, which is a relief for not only me, but also for you, I'd imagine, because coming up at 12 o'clock, Daz Hale will be in. Morning, Daz.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. You seem a very practical, down-to-earth man. You don't buy into this psychic nonsense, do you?
I think there is something there. I really do, but I do also believe that the vast majority of people who go around peddling the wares probably aren't the real deal. And I think obviously the more you learn about it, and there's certain people have got certain tricks, even planting people in an audience, in the foyer before a show, listening to what people are saying. I'm sure they've got more sophisticated over the years, but yeah, I think that there probably are some people with a gift.
I wish. I'd love to believe it. I'd love to speak to my grandparents and my dad.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had the gift. That's why I'd win the polls. I'd know all the football scores every week.
Daz, while I've got you on, this West Bromwich Albion story, they've been issued an ultimatum by Zoopla to sack Anelka after he did this gesture that some people perceive to be anti-Semitic. Is that common in football, that a sponsor, can say, do this, otherwise we're going away?
Not as I'm aware of. I was actually there at that game that day with Rob Gurney, who I know was on the show a little bit earlier, and I think everyone in the stadium and everybody else watching in England were pretty much unaware of the significance of the alleged gesture, and of course
I had to look it up. Yeah,
and then it all went crazy over in France. I mean, there was a player at Newcastle earlier this season who I think it was Papi Cissé who said he didn't want to wear the shirt sponsor Wonga because he's a Muslim, and that was obviously he's a payday loan company. So it worked on the other side of it, but no, it's put them in a very, very difficult situation, and I don't think it's been helped at all by the fact that the FA. I mean, this happened on the 28th of December, and they're still dragging their heels over making a decision. And whether the FA was hoping that it would all quietly go away, well, clearly it's not going to. So again, it's just lingering on and on and on, isn't it?
These
it needs
things
to be sorted.
Never quietly go away.
No.
Daz, what's coming up on the show today, please?
OK, well, this afternoon, then, of course, we've got Blues against Yeovil, live on 95.6 FM. We've got Walsall against Brentford as well. We've got Villa at Liverpool at 5:30. So a couple of talking points today on the show. Should have been an England regular. The players who maybe only never played for England, maybe only got 1 or 2 caps. Who are the players who should have been England regulars? And also, your most treasured autograph. What is it that you've got in your collection, and can you read it? And amongst others as well, we'll be joined by Callum Riley of Blues, Wayne Clark, Rawl Fox as well. What's your most treasured autograph, Ian?
My most treasured autograph is I've got a record that's been signed by 3 of the Monkees, the pop group.
Yeah.
And hopefully in March I'm going to get the 4th member to sign it. Boom, complete collection.
OK, so which one haven't you got at the moment?
I haven't got Michael Nesmith, the guy with the green hat, but hopefully I'm seeing him in March and I'm going to get him to sign it.
OK, so I was hoping, when I asked you your most treasured autograph, I was hoping you were going to say Derek Okora or Doris Stokes, but you're not going there, are you?
I'm not playing that game, Daz. You're very, very naughty.
Give me a slap.
Yep. Take that. Now get out. See you later on. Have a good one. That's Daz. He'll be on from midday. Let's go to... let's take a call from... Oh, it's Jean. Hello, Jean. Sorry, you've been waiting a while. Jean, what have you got for me?
Hello, Ian. It's very nice to speak to you. I've never spoken to you before. I hope
it's nice to speak to you.
You're okay and you're quite better.
I'm much better after last week's migraine. Thank you very much indeed.
My mum used to suffer with them, and I know how terrible they are.
It's awful, just the most intense pain. Anyway, I'm fine now. You've called in about psychics, haven't you, Jean?
I'm sorry, but, I'm sorry. I think it's a real old con trick.
Really?
Yes.
Tell me why.
Because I would love, like you, I would love to go to a meeting, just sit there, and somebody come to me and tell me exactly about who's passed away in my life, what they did, what their names were, where they lived, etc.
Yep.
Has anybody ever done that? No.
Well, this is the thing. We're hearing all these stories, and some of them are quite vague. And also, I think as well, when someone's recounting a story, quite often as humans, we fill in the blanks, don't we? We fill in things that didn't actually happen to back up our story.
Exactly. Sorry to interrupt you. It's a question of they ask questions. Yep. A real person who is genuine would not ask questions they would know. Wouldn't they, Ian?
What happens when you die, Jean?
Nothing. You sleep, that's it. Gone.
I think that's sad, but I agree with you.
I
think that's it. You switch off and that's it. Game over. Bye-bye.
And I think a lot of this, it's a sort of comfort for them. They may be afraid of death, and they think there is something far beyond. Do you think I'm awful?
No, I don't. I think it's sad, but I agree with you. I think that's it. Well, you make the most of your life, that you try and be as nice to as many people as you can, and then when that's it, the light's off, it's over.
And it's time to go.
Yeah.
And I mean go.
Jean, I appreciate your call this morning. It's very nice to talk to you. Just by the way, dear listener, that's how to be a caller. Polite, respect, manners, you see? Appreciate that. It's sad, isn't it? And it's sad. And sometimes I'm not a Christian. Sometimes I wish I was. I wish I had their faith that there was something else after all this. But I don't think there is. I don't think there is. About another 5 more minutes of the show if you want to give me a call. 03453 009956.
Iain Lee.
On BBC WM.
95.6. The voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
Now, here is a cracking story. I heard this on Radio 4 yesterday. Incredible story. There is new hope for women who've had repeated miscarriages after a Birmingham mum has gone to have a baby boy despite losing 20 babies. Gosh, you can't even begin to imagine how devastating that must be. Kelly Mosley from Chelmsley Wood now has baby Tyler thanks to a pioneering anti-malarial treatment which costs... how much? Thousands? Hundreds? No, 25 pence a tablet. I'm joined now by Mr Hassan Shahata, who was her consultant and developed the treatment, which she's now used on a further 10 to 15 women. He's on the line now. Good morning, Hassan. So you've used this on several women. It works, does it?
Good morning, Ian. Thank you for having me. It does. I think it's important for us to say this is early days, really. So it's really a quite new, pioneering work. So I'm hoping that your listeners wouldn't start buying the drug over the internet.
No, exactly. But how does it work? What does it do?
Right. Kelly and Alan had 20 miscarriages, and basically what happens in some of these women, the body defense mechanism has something called natural killer cells. And these natural killer cells attack the pregnancy, thinking wrongly that the pregnancy is foreign. Conventionally, I've done a lot of work in this field, and conventionally we used to treat them with steroids, a drug called prednisolone tablets, which is a well-recognized, well-known drug, like the one people use for asthma, eczema, etc. However, with Kelly, despite giving her the steroids about 3 or 4 times, her levels never came down to the level we expect them to be to allow the pregnancy to continue, and she continues to miscarry. So after a lot of kind of thinking, I just had one day an eureka moment, and I said I should think of something else. And hydroxychloroquine, although it's a malaria drug originally, we don't use quite a lot these days for malaria, but we also use it for other diseases such as rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, and it is an anti-inflammatory, so it brings down or calms down the immune system. So I thought I'd better give her this drug, and we have a lot of experience with it in pregnancy because it's been around since the 1940s. So it's reasonably safe, used under very close supervision, and thankfully she was successful.
She must have been pretty desperate to try anything after losing 20 babies through miscarriage.
Well, Ian, I think my hat's off really to both Kelly and Alan. I mean, they have worked very hard to achieve this pregnancy, and they have put a lot of faith in me, and therefore, I'm always trying to think how I help them. They're the couple I've always stuck on my mind every day going back from work because I wasn't able to help them. And they never gave up, and they're just amazing, amazing people. And I was very privileged, although I am based in Surrey, I was very privileged to look after them. I'm coming from Birmingham. I have a very close relationship with Birmingham. My son studies in Birmingham, so I was very, very happy that they were successful.
And very quickly, Hassan, what happens now? Did the NHS get involved? What's the next stage for this treatment?
The next stage, really, I'm writing up a grant application now to get some funding. As you've kindly mentioned at the beginning of this clip, that I've treated another 15 women the same way, and we have a very good success rate, about 70%. I think we need more studies, so we need more funding. The drug is quite cheap. It has a very good track record in pregnancy. So I think watch the space, I would say, and hopefully it will be something we can roll out on the NHS over the next 5 years.
Mr Hassan Shahata, thank you so much. Isn't it nice to get a good story like that? Fantastic. 25 pence drug could help people who are having miscarriages. Wonderful. Thank you very much indeed. We'll follow that story very closely. Right, Daz is on at midday. Time to squeeze in... Let's squeeze in one more call, shall we? Brian's in Great Bar on the subject of psychics. Brian, you've got a minute and a half. What do you want to say?
I'm 76 now. I've been a spiritualist for 30 years. And during that time, I've had absolutely overwhelming evidence of the afterlife.
What evidence have you had?
Oh, it would take me too long to tell you, but if you ever want to phone me or email me, I'll be glad to discuss it with you personally. Because someone like you who doesn't believe, I always feel it's a challenge to me, you know?
So could you, if I were to get in touch with you, could you do something? Could you speak to one of my dead relatives?
I haven't got that ability, but I've got friends who can.
Right.
The first time I went into the church, 1982, medium said to me, "There's Arthur, Mary and Elizabeth all send their love to you, 3 grandparents." Since then, I've had time after time after time, relatives and friends who have passed on. We all go in there. It's just a natural thing. When the body dies, the spirit leaves.
I don't know if you heard Jean, who was on earlier on. She thinks that when you die, that's it. The light switches off. There's nothing. What would you say to her?
How pointless life would be if it was oblivion. Everything you've gone through, everything you've learned, all the emotions and everything through a person's lifetime to end in nothing. It's crazy. But that's not the point. It's evidence is there if people seek it out. Go to your nearest church and keep going until you'll get your proof. I can guarantee it.
Brian, I appreciate your call. What an interesting call to end on. I would love to. And if there are any psychics listening to this, do send me an email, iain.lee, iain.lee at bbc.co.uk. I would love to believe, but I've just not had the evidence. And I've not had enough evidence today to convince me. It's something we will come back to in the future. I'm absolutely sure of it. Thank you so much for all of your phone calls today. This show doesn't work unless you pick up the phone and call in. Otherwise, it's just me ranting to myself. You've called in your droves. I really appreciate it. Right, that's it. That's your lot. Back next week. Daz is up next. Until next Saturday at 9 o'clock. Ta-ta.
The voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
BBC WM 95.6.
So on the way next then, we begin our build-up to a big afternoon of football in early kick-off with me, Daz Hale. I want to know about the players who should have been England regulars, and also tell me about your most treasured autograph. 03453